Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support the show, go to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Salutations, everybody. It is Maddie here today, and welcome to episode 13 of Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast.
Episode 13. That's perfect.
Yes.
For what we just experienced.
Yeah.
13, bad luck. Things going weird. Yeah, it's good to be here. It's good to have finally got this started only almost an hour late. Awesome.
I mean, we had a lot of just negative wishes from the audience on our day that it was positively mediocre. So, I mean, hey, you guys got your wish. I mean, we are struggling here. We're on both Discord and Riverside, our service that we use to record our show, because of audio issues. So I've never had to do this before. We're in a double call right now, and so I got a little.
It seems to be working.
Carrick. It is though. It is. You're a little blurry on my end, but if that's the worst, then. Not too bad.
Yeah, if that's the worst, then people should just count themselves lucky if they have to see less. That's all I'm saying.
Carrick at 480p.
Yeah, hey, that's the highest P you'll ever want to see me in. That's what I'm saying.
So welcome, everyone, to our Xbox podcast. Happy Outriders week to those of you celebrating over on Game Pass. We'll be talking about that a little bit in this week's show because... Carrick and I have it in early access now, and by the time you're all listening to this in the public, you'll already have been able to try out the game and see what it's all about. Once again, it's available on console Game Pass only, so we're looking forward to discussing with all of you in the coming week on how you think this game is. But we'll give some of our thoughts today. For those of you who are new, if you want to support this show, early access goes live to all patrons on Thursday over on patreon.com/laststandmedia. If you don't want to, you're a cheapskate, you say fuck them, then guess what? You can listen for free on Sundays. That's totally fine. We're also on the Last Stand Media YouTube channel if you want to see Carrick in 480p. Other little housekeeping notes. Defining Duke Ultimate 9 with myself and Dustin Furman, executive producer of Last Stand Media, is now live. We check over on the other side of things and tap Dustin on the shoulder for a little PlayStation expertise, a little PlayStation fanboy, and I'm just kidding, and see what he thinks about Xbox's moves and if PlayStation needs to respond. So that was a pretty good episode, good change of pace for us. And other than that, Last Stand Media merch, mobile ratings have been great. We appreciate all of you pushing hard on that front. Makes a big difference. Cannot emphasize that enough. And other than that, Carrick, probably my shortest housekeeping of our show's history, our short history at that. What have you been up to?
Just Outriders. And yeah, I mean, a couple reviews here and there, but that's I would say the major thing that I've been doing. Other than fighting Windows.
How early did you get Outriders?
Yesterday.
Oh, okay, yeah, I got it today.
Well, okay, so technically, I guess I did too. Now that I think about it. Because we were told we could go live with something today at 4 a.m. So I woke up at 2:30, worked out, and then got online with Abzy, and we streamed in my Discord.
Oh,
yeah.
So now I understand your tweet. You're like working out at 3 a.m. I'm like, what the fuck?
Well, I always work out at 4. At 4 is like a good early. I am admittedly a early workout freak, but yeah, I woke up at really early, and we just decided, let's stream it to our Discord. I finally got Discord working with the help of Discord themselves, because I haven't been able to stream in Discord for almost 6 months, and with their tech help. Streaming
on Discord. My friends and I have a server, and we'll always share gameplay with each other while we're playing something to show each other games that we might be interested in, and it's a valuable tool. I cannot overstate how helpful it is. And it's something I want to do with some of my patrons as well, kind of show them games and all that stuff. Yep. And it is a major piece of Discord that I don't think gets enough love, but it is fantastic.
Yeah, it was fun. We were gonna stream on Twitch or YouTube for some views, but we decided on Discord because you never know with a new game how it's gonna run, and I'm glad we did. So we had no end of technical difficulties getting that thing exactly, and which is normal for a new game. And then you have it's a huge number of new people playing it, so you're gonna have stutter and let Carney. I stopped by Co's pod or stream for a bit and said hi and that kind of stuff. I was like, let them do it. Those are the guys that have like people helping them. It was just me at 2:30 in the morning with my dogs, and I was like, I'm not gonna stress this. And we had a really good time. We just streamed to the internal patron for about 5 hours and then crapped out. We'll do some more later today. But that's pretty much, that's the major stuff.
Yeah, for me, pretty much the same. We're kind of swinging into that review season, right? We've got Oddworld coming soon. Yeah. We've got Outriders. We just had Monster Hunter Rise drop, which I've been playing.
True.
But a lot of decent looking games coming out. Monster Hunter Rise, I was actually playing it last night. I think the biggest difference maker with that game is its speed. Like, I liked Monster Hunter World a good amount, but once I beat it, which was after 90 hours, I went, okay, it's time to move on. With this game, though, I actually see myself sticking, which previously I did not feel with World. And it's really because the wire bug. Just the moves you can do, it's a little more quicker. Riding the Palamutes, getting around the map way faster to the next battle. It just trims the fat. That's what it does. It just trims the fat. So while this is an Xbox show, this game will be coming to PC. So keep that in mind, ladies and gentlemen. Keep your eye on Monster Hunter Rise. There are a lot of people who are down in this game because, it's just World 2.0. I think that's a good thing. It really does shape up a lot of the issues World had that held me back from going all back in.
You got to be a jackass, too, to be like, man, this fucking awesome game. This is just 2.0 of this fucking awesome game. And you're like,
the best-selling game of Capcom ever when they made Street Fighter 2, and they're like, 2.0, that piece of shit. What?
Sometimes especially, and we could go on and on, but even on Twitter, I mean, I admit that my desire on Twitter is most likely to piss off both sides on every tweet I possibly can. Mm-hmm. Like, you can tell that I'm honeypotting people. But this morning, I saw that the Square games,
Kingdom
Hearts was coming, all this stuff, and I posted. And then I posted that Soulstorm was coming on PS Plus because I think that's pretty exciting that PS Plus is getting that's like Game Pass getting a new game. No lie, man. Somebody's like, well, it's not exciting because we already knew, or it's not like worth it because we already knew. And I was like, what fucking world do you live in, man? Like, what world do you live in? What world?
Does the game matter or the news?
There. It's fucking ridiculous what people will respond to some of my tweets, and it's like, dude, you're so down. It's like, dude, if that's so the worst news you're gonna get, calm the fuck down. I was
tweeting about Final Fantasy 9, and I just finished it last week.
I saw that. I saw you post about it. Yeah.
First of all, what a phenomenal game. I gotta say, that is absolutely my favorite Final Fantasy. I liked it that much. Not even honeymooning it. I've had some time to digest it. It's legit some really good stuff. I always thought Final Fantasy was a great series in certain instances, like Crisis Core. Really, my attachment to 7. I like 13 too, but 9 blew it out of the water. Just phenomenal themes, character development.
Damn.
But anyway, what I'm getting to is more topical to our conversation. Some person tweets at me when I said how much I loved it, and they go, it's too kid friendly. It's not really it's so immature in its tone. I'm like, maybe that's because you have a 15-year-old, 16-year-old, 6-year-old, and a childlike spirit in your party with like 2 adult figures, or 3, sorry. It's like, you're gonna have some childlike moments as they develop as characters. It's like, dude,
these are the same fuckers who would land on the moon and then be like, we're on the moon. It's like, yeah, you are. Like, that's how you fucking got there. I don't get it. I do not get it where some of the responses that I see, and admittedly, I do get it in one way because I know they're negative because it's a bad time. I do get it. I woke up this morning, I was telling one of my friends, I got done working out, and they're like, man, you're working out early, blah, blah, blah. You got so much energy. I have none. And I'm like, you know what? Don't fret it. Like, it's a shit world right now. Like, I do get it.
Yeah.
But that constant, downing of good stuff, you're all, dude, it's okay. It's okay to self-masturbate, man. It's like, it's okay to have a good time. Love yourself just a little. Don't hate everything. Like, why would you even say it's too kid-friendly to, like, Final Fantasy 9? We're at, like, Final Fantasy 107 now. That thing's got more side stories and who gives a shit if it's like Kitty? It came out at a completely different time. Instead, just be like, oh, I'm glad you liked it, and then move the fuck on. But people can't
or
do
say
it.
nothing. I think it's just the desire to say something.
It's the desire to say. Have you ever done that where you'll be like, I'm doing a podcast at 9, and somebody will be like, well, I don't know if the sun will be out. And you're like, I don't know what does that got to do with my tweet?
Yeah.
Like, and you realize it's almost like a loneliness. It's almost like a sheer desire to get something out there. It's
funny you say that because I've seen some creators talking about it, and sometimes everyone feels the need to have to say something because that's the sort of world we've been brought into where you have to say something about the news. You have to say something about every game coming out. And sometimes silence is effective because that means when you speak, you mean it.
Yeah.
And it's something that a lot of people should pay attention to. You know, you don't got to speak on every single topic and have an opinion everywhere. So a note to the audience. Let's talk a little bit about Outriders before we get into our warm-ups as per usual. So you said you've been playing about 5 hours today. You have more time in it than me. I have about 2.5, 3 hours. So mine are very early impressions. But I got to say, picking it up, Carrick, this is my first time playing it since the preview event that I've talked about on this show for a number of weeks where I said, hey, I really liked it then. I gotta say, they retained most of the feel. I don't know why the camera shaking was not defaulted to being smoothed out, at least on consoles. It wasn't. You had, like, I saw the cutscene and, you know, that camera was rocking and rolling everywhere. And I thought, well, hold on. Didn't they give a lot of feedback and they said they were fixing this? Is this the fixed version is what my first thought was. I was absolutely staggered, got motion sick immediately. It was actually crazy. I went, wow, this is powerful. And then I went right into the options and it was there. I don't know why it wasn't like that by default, but that was the only thing that stood out to me that I really disliked. After that, though, gameplay felt good. I picked the Devastator class, a little bit different from the Technomancer I did in the preview build. So this was like the ground pounder. It's got the golem armor. I've only got a couple of abilities. One's like a teleport punch ability. And this is the class that gets health back by killing enemies close by. So I'm really excited about it so far. I've been enjoying it. I think the difference here is a lot of people are going to look at this and go, third-person Destiny. I think third-person clicks with me a lot more. I like being able to see my character, see what they're wearing, see how they change, see those abilities. And that's no disrespect to Destiny, but I think that's why this one clicked with me originally and now is standing a chance to continue to click. But so far, I don't want to talk too much on it because for me personally, just because I have only played so little, I will be streaming this with Dustin. So that'll be a good time. And I'll be talking about it more on my channel. But I want to pick your brain a little bit and I'll respond if I'm able to on just your initial impressions on this new game coming to Game Pass on consoles.
Well, I think Game Pass is a good place. I think expectations, I posted this yesterday, I think expectations are incredibly low right now because there's not a lot out. And there's certainly not a lot that's a third-person shooter that's out. And I got to see people's reaction to a stunningly average game, in my own opinion, which was Remnant from the Ashes, and people just being like, this is the best game that's ever been created. And I remember listening, it was a little bit like The Medium, and going, what world am I in right now where we're thinking that's, but not disliking it, just going like, where's the hyperbole come in versus where is this just a pretty good game? And I would say with this game, I assume we'll see some hyperbole, number one, because of Game Pass, and then you'll see the hate hyperbole as well. I think with third person, it feels like I don't see a lot of the connection between Destiny and this when it comes to
mainly the HUD, I would say.
Maybe, but it's not first person. Destiny's level design is 100 billion trillion times better. The level design in Outriders is some of the worst I've ever seen in my life. And I've never seen a game where they just throw random walls everywhere other than Gears of War, which admittedly got a bunch of shit for it and should get a bunch of shit for it. You shouldn't just see a wall for no reason in the center of a giant arena, which is all you see in Outriders from start to finish, is just walls placed everywhere. It fucking sucks. It looks terrible. Destiny didn't do that for the most part. Destiny used debris in a better way. So I think Destiny is like your AAA. Division is probably your AA. I think Division does a great job. Division 2 in particular does a great job with the shooting, a little less so with the environment. And then Outriders to me feels like the Gothic or the Vampire of its grouping, you know, where it's not hateable, and I can see why people like it. I mean, I do know that I was playing and Abzy was just like, this is intolerable. Like, I do not want to play this. And I'm like, no, I need you to play it so we can review it. And he's like, I just don't, it's the worst shooting. And he is right. I will say the shooting, the sound effects are miserable. There's like all these issues, but then you got the weapons where you get a weapon that's got like, you get a weapon and you got armor and they've got this synergy to them that is cool. I don't think it's cool to cause me to grind it. But it is certainly cool to get it. Meaning, if I'm playing this game and I get some cool pants that cause one of my skills to do something different, that's awesome. I like that. I dig it big time. And I think that that's where it actually, in a weird way, I enjoy more the weapons in this than Destiny. Because in Destiny, you'd always hear somebody be like, man, I can't wait till I get Mother's Breath or whatever the fuck, some, jack off name. And I'd be like, I don't even know what this is or what it really does. I'd see it and I'd be like, I get why you like it. This game though, Ricochet. So you got like Ricochet. Then for me, I did the Pyromancer for the most part. I like the flame bullets I got, which is the ability to light any gun's bullets on fire, which then removes the desire or need to get that in a gun, because that can also be a gun skill. I like that. I think that's cool, because then you can tit for tat. You can be like, I can use this on any gun, but it's going to cost me my casting stuff, or I can get a gun where that's in the gun and then maybe decide to just use that one for lighting people on fire. It's pretty cool. Also, this is one of the first games where I think you can really see the weakness an enemy has towards something. When you go into the flesh guys, and if you are fire like I am, you eat through everybody so quick. But if you go against the humans and you start going against captains and stuff like that, the fire, not nearly as like useful. That's where team play comes in. And Abzy was the guy that spins and teleports. I can't, like the teleporter dude. Yeah. And he did some cool stuff I'd never seen. Like, he teleported behind me, has this like 360 spin. And what we started doing is, like, I would light him on fire with a sniper rifle. He'd smash them. And then the moment they were like unstunned or not on fire, we'd sort of do it again or move to the opposite side. And he was sort of doing this weird bounce thing, because he can teleport out of trouble too. That was fun. Like, there's some stuff that I like there. And admittedly, I'm probably the only person in the world that doesn't mind the story. I mean, overall, I don't love it, but I don't mind it.
It's funny you mentioned that. So I was thinking of you while I was playing the early going of the game. The story concept and the plot points are interesting, but the acting is fucking hilarious.
Yeah, his acting's pretty bad, right?
It's fucking hilarious, dude. I love it. It's so bad. It's incredible. And that's literally, I say it with no disrespect, I think that's what People Can Fly goes for. They did it with Bulletstorm, and in this game, like, I just feel like it. I don't know. I could be totally missing the mark, but they don't. It sounds like, take our world seriously. Don't take our character seriously. The reason I say that is, in the early going, you discover something, and your character turns around and tries to say what the fuck, like he just saw the most devastating thing of his life. But what he sounds like is he just stepped in a pile of dog shit outside, and he's lifting up his shoe, looking, he's like, what the fuck? Like that. Yeah. But it's in the middle of a cataclysmic storm. Yeah.
Vocal fry, Maddie. You ever heard, I don't know if you know, but if you have a friend who smokes a lot of dope, they start talking like, they sound like a goat getting fucked in the woods somewhere. That's exactly what that guy sounds like. Listen to him, man. He'll be like,
I was drinking water.
When something happens in that game, he'll be like, what the fuck? And you're like, that is exactly how all my really baked friends sound like. And you're right. It doesn't intone well, does it? It's like, you can't tell if there's a question mark there, if you get my drift. Like,
when you grab the scientist and you bang him against the truck, and that sounded wrong. When you grab the scientist and you hold him up against the truck and you're threatening him, and he's like, you've got to stop, man. I'm like, are you trying to like plead this guy for like a raise or something? Or are you trying to get him to stop the end of the world here? Like,
there's a difference between saying a scream and screaming too. So I can say a scream by going, you know that I'm pretending to scream, but there's no scream there. A scream comes from like the bottom of the lungs. And when he says like, you've got to stop, that's a lot different than when somebody forcefully is like, you got to stop, and you're like, okay, whoa. But they don't do it, dude. He doesn't, whoever directed those guys doesn't give a shit. And there's an audiobook called 14 that is about a supernatural apartment, and I'm almost 100% sure the main actor is a vocal fry filled pot smoking dude in that because I just got done with 14 last week. And then I played Outriders, and I was like, is that the same guy? I'm almost 100% sure it's the same voice actor. So, yeah, it's fun. It's fun to see.
I just thought it was... yeah. It's
Go
got such a... It's almost got a charm, is what I was going to say. That's what's weird about it. The story universe, I'm like, okay, humanity's left Earth. For those who don't know, they're on this new planet Enoch. They're trying to, like, restart pretty much. Earth's been abandoned. And I'm thinking, oh, this is pretty interesting. We're moving on. We're seeing what's happening here. It obviously doesn't go right. And then you kind of pick things up many years later, and I'm like, oh, okay, all these are pretty interesting, but the acting in between is just so cheesy, man. It makes
and your little French lady who helps you, and then once she finds out you're back, she hates you. And you're like,
yeah,
why
I
is
didn't
this
even know
lady,
what the fuck happened.
What is happening? Why does she hate me? She's the one who saved me. And she saves you, and she's like, save yourself. She puts you in the little thing, and then when you get out, she's like, what can you do for me? And you're all, dude, shit has changed.
She's like, I've seen people die for 30 years. I'm like, all right, that's like cheesy Gordita crunch levels of fucking cheesiness right there.
Right. Like you get it, but you don't get it. Yeah. It doesn't pay off.
It boils down to writing and acting, I think. They have the right ideas. Her reaction makes sense, but what she said doesn't line up with what she said in our timeline 15 minutes ago, and her timeline, it was 30 years ago. She's like, you're fucking
That's
dead.
another thing, yeah. I would say the last thing that I want this game to fix is the cover system. The cover system is brutally delayed. When you, especially on the PC, I say especially because that's where I've now spent the most time is on the PC.
Using gamepad or keyboard and mouse, by the way?
Both. I tested this because I couldn't figure out what was going on, but then Abzy was pointing out that the difference between this game and others is that because there's a delay in the animation, if you hit the space bar to either go up into or out of cover, it's not as quick as Gears. And so what happens is you hit it again. Well, guess what happens if you hit it again? They suck back into cover, or if you were trying to get into cover, they pop out of cover. And so what'll happen is you'll be in the middle of battle, and if your brain is thinking faster than the game is moving, and you start like going, I want to go into cover, and he doesn't move right away, there's almost like an animation stall, then it's easy to hit it again and pop back out, which sort of sucks. And I'd like to see them speed up some of the animations. I noticed I love the Pyromancer has to... So the Pyromancer has some great power, but if he does them, you can't stop an enemy from hitting you unless you're like 3/4 of a second prior to them getting close to you. A lot of games, the moment you start a special move, bad guy gets hit. And I love that. I actually think it works awesome here because here you can't like just go, ha-ha, and because the guy's right next to you, you'll still get hit. They'll still hit you once, though they're on fire. But that should not occur with your movements. I don't have a problem with it occurring with magic, because you're like summoning mana or whatever you're using. But when it comes to the movements, that definitely was popping up a lot. And I would like to see them speed it up just a little bit so that getting into and out of cover, as well as which cover of the 4 that are there that you want to get into, it would be a little bit more accurate. Because we were showing on video, I'm standing and there's cover, and it's doing a proximity thing that I can't quite track. But if I would hit cover, he would go to the right, even though I wasn't looking at all to the right, and I was closer to the one in front. And it's obvious that it's like doing a bounding box, and it's like it found something closer to the side than in front, where visually, to me, that didn't make sense. So some things need to be fixed, but overall, again, Game Pass is a perfect spot.
Yeah, this is looking better and better as a Game Pass game. Yeah. I agree. When it comes to the
really
cover stuff,
move.
It's funny because absolutely on both ends. I think it makes sense for Xbox, and I think it makes a lot of sense for Square Enix, because a lot of people are going to talk this game up more now because of the timing of its release. It's releasing at the perfect time before everything else that's really big and I'd say promising looking.
Demo.
Yeah, the demo, they ramped up a lot of good PR, and I think they could have, and I'm not saying this because we are in this boat, but I think they could have really ramped it up if they said, here's early codes as well. But maybe they needed that time to work on more things. I don't know. But if they were like, hey, here's, I'm talking, by the way, like weak access to allow people to, because they've done a lot of confidence showing moves. Like, hey, we're going to delay it. Hey, we're going to do a demo. You're going to carry your progress over. We're going to do Game Pass. Like, they've shown this consistent confidence. I think the the real nail in that coffin would have been to do the really early access codes. But when it comes to the cover system, it's funny because I rarely use cover, and this is where the conversation is going to get interesting. Not that you wouldn't, by the way, but I rarely use it because with my character class, one of my abilities is called Golem. So you just encase yourself in rock. And so I equip a shotgun and I run up on people because I need to be close for my character to get their health back. So I'm like, fuck the cover. I'm pounding the ground, popping them up out of the air that they are trying to hide behind cover. You know, and it's interesting because my play style fits what I think the game may have been designed around. Is you don't need cover. You need to cover to sit down, reload maybe, but then get back out there. And
I think no, because the Pyromancer is ranged.
Okay.
It's just that fits your character and the way you're playing it. But all mine, I have no up close whatsoever. In fact, I have ones that are like straight line, very thin fire, straight line, very thin fire, and no lie, straight line, very thin fire. That's all 3 of my like specials right now. Now I've only got 5 of them.
At first I thought you were lagging. I was like, what?
No, sorry. You mean repeating?
Like,
no.
Yeah,
and Absy was up close too, even though as he played, there were 1 or 2 that were a little bit farther back, and I had a really good sniper rifle. I was really happy with my sniper rifle. But no, I think it fits. I just think that, I mean, dude, it's just, I don't even know if I agree. It's not that I don't agree on the codes, but my personal belief is that they saw the response from the demo. They knew about Game Pass and they decided, fuck the reviewers. And the reason why I say that is because why not? I've seen it happen a couple times with me where I know that I haven't got a code because there's some nervousness about what I've posted prior. And I've talked to them about it later and they've been like, yeah, you know, I mean, why give it to you if, you know, you're already maybe in this line. I'm not saying without Outriders, by the way. I'm talking about other games. But I get you, but I just don't think that confidence matters to them. I don't think it's a seller for this game, Maddie. What I mean is I don't think it would have helped them. It could have probably only hurt them. Because because there's nothing out right now, Maddie. Like, of that style, There's just nothing out. They probably looked at Remnant, which did well. And they've all they've got is positive press, Maddie, other than, you know, shaky cam. But I mean, if you look, they've got no end game. It's a full game, right? No grind. You know what I mean? They've got a demo already out, and they saw the numbers on the demo. They saw the numbers on Avengers, and I'm going to tell you right now, man, why have an Avengers moment? Like, why give it to a shitball like Carrick, who, I mean, you can tell, even if I love the game, I'm still going to destroy the level design. Like, right? They might be just like, hey, why? You know, why? Like, there's...
I feel like that goes for any company.
They're probably pretty confident. It may, but they don't have a demo and Game Pass behind them. I just think that's a big deal to these companies.
Yeah,
I mean,
Game Pass may have been the, like you said, the difference maker. Because I would have brought up Monster Hunter Rise, where people got that 2 weeks in advance, and that had a demo. But I think Game Pass might have been the changer.
And remember,
for
United
them.
States didn't.
Yeah, yeah, right. That was all EU. Yeah,
whatever happened there, right? That was
not
weird
sure. Exactly. Yeah, I only knew that through Cowboy because he was he was grinding out. He put I'm friends with him on Switch. He put 45 hours in the demo. That's insanity. That's like I want to shake
I went into his stream. Might have been yesterday, last night. I forgot. I go in, Maddie, and he's like, oh, hey, Carrick, ACG's here. Let me, and he's like, are you going to get this? And I'm all, I don't know if I have the time, blah, blah, blah. And do you like the weapons versus Neo? And he's like, well, let me show you. And he's just like comboing the dudes, like, you know, their buttermilk, right? You're just like, what is happening? And he's all, well, it depends on if you get the issued rune, then you mix in the red fucking mana and the basilisk tail, and then you grab the dragon fucking, and then it's a third, fourth, fucking 15th combo, and then you win the Powerball. Yeah. And I'm like, wow, this guy, he was so fucking deep. And people in there, I was posting going, this dude is comboing the menus. If you watched him, he was comboing menus. He was like, 1, 2, 3, left 1, 2, up 1, 2, because he knew where items were. So it was like 1, 2, 3 down status up 2. Yeah. So
that's funny.
You know, and it's cool because that game's out and doing well, and this game is coming out and for all intents and purposes has almost all positive I don't mean that the gameplay is loved. I just mean it doesn't have the PR shit that a lot of Square, in particular, games have had, man. It must be nice. It must be.
Why ruin a good thing? Is kind of the.
Yeah, I would love to be them right now, to be able to go, I think people are going to like this. Get out of Avengers for just a bit. Get out of that shadow.
And honestly, I remember when this game got revealed, I felt pretty good about it in the sense of its concept. I thought it was a little more serious and grounded than it ended up being. But when it came to the preview, that was kind of where I went, yeah, I think this is the thing that you can see the potential in. And I think they're more relieved that they had something immediately after Avengers that's kind of like Avengers, but did those aspects that Avengers got wrong right.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I dig it.
I got to ask you,
big time.
Do you use the handgun?
Like the pistol?
Yeah.
I used it in the tutorial, but so far I've just been swapping between primaries.
Okay, I'm not the only one. I forgot I owned one.
Well, dude, when they give you two primaries, why would I?
Yeah, they give you two. Not only that, but in ammo, Absy was having issues with ammo. I remember one time he was like, dude, it's pretty scarce for him. But for the most part, yeah, I had a bunch of ammo, and one time I switched on accident, and I'm like, I thought it was in a bug or a glitch. I was like, why is he holding his arm all weird? And I was like, oh yeah, he's got a handgun. And then I forgot you could up close. Completely forgot. We're 4 hours into the stream, and
the melee.
Absy, Absy screams. He's like, hey, you can attack up close, because nobody got up close to us. We had died a couple times.
Yeah, they give you a lot of tools.
Yeah, but nobody had got up close. And I will say, we started on the hardest, whatever the world tier 5 or whatever. And you can, or whatever you can be on. We were both 6th or 7th level, and I think it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we started at the highest. We were doing okay, but I got to tell you, and we died a couple times. I got to tell you, I don't know if you feel this way. On the higher ones, they feel more bullet spongy than anything.
Yeah,
and I'm nervous about that.
Yeah, that'll be a thing that only we can find out over time. That's hard for us to give a guess on now, but I noticed a little bit of sponginess because, I played like a mid-game preview back when, and now even immediately, there are some enemies that come out, and I will say, though, you're spot on about the enemy design, where when I started to target weaknesses and usabilities, they did go down quicker. So I think it does boil down to analyzing the enemy, using the right weapon. Having the right weapon at the right time is the other thing. Because I had a shotgun, so it was this big hulking enemy, but his head was like a little pea sitting on the rest of this like hulking armor. So I just took out a shotgun. I was just shooting that little brain, and that's what did massive damage to him. So I think it comes down to a lot of that as well. I have to say, it reminds me a lot of this is going to sound like a bad advertisement, but I swear. It reminds me a lot of a late 360 PS3 era game in a lot of ways.
No, very much so.
You've got your shooting gallery, then you've got conveniently placed restock locations. You've kind of got this, like I said, really B tier story happening that it has some charm, but it's not quite there. And it's doing one thing particularly well, which is, I think, its gameplay. I've really liked how it plays. I think it feels good. The only thing I don't like is I think there's a little bit of, I don't know if you agree with this, it's a little loose on the movement. And when I say that, I mean, normally there's a wake up frame for animation where you start running, but if I push the left stick, he immediately just goes. He just fires out. And for me, I kind of like that warm up to that where he starts getting going. And I'm talking about half a second difference here. But for me, it feels a little loose. So when you're trying to be precise and say, like, oh, I'm trying to get into cover here, and you kind of like wiggle around cover by accident, that can present some issues, at least for me. But otherwise, I think, to my original point, they've kind of got the gameplay right, where you're seeing an impact of your weapons. One of the first ones I picked up when I finished a kill, they just exploded. All right. I mean, that's awesome. And you start to get your abilities, and you start to see some of the customization come in. You could tell usually with a game, especially games of that time, like, hey, this is where they really tried. And so far from between two sessions combining for like 6 hours, I think they've really got something good with the gameplay. Maybe not the level design. I agree. Kind of reminds me of when I was playing Gears of War in the earlier episodes of the show.
Very Gears of War 1-ish.
Yeah, where you've got this nice
and the split
brick house, and you're like, oh, perfect for cover, and you just lean up against it.
Or the split, like where one guy goes one way and one guy goes the other, except here you both go one way. So you know a quest is up because it only goes 10 feet. And you go up, you do your quest, then you come down, and you know you have to go down and around. In a way, that's almost like Anthem. Because Anthem looked open, but you get my drift. It was, and I thought you were going to say it reminded you a little Anthem, because there were a couple times when I was running, the graphics at some points looked like on-foot Anthem versus like in a robot suit Anthem. There was something about it. But yeah, it'd be cool to see, like, I think the big thing is, when will it run out of, I think have... Yeah, well, then you already know where I'm going. Like, just how long is it gonna last? How long is it you're gonna buy into it? I think that's why Game Pass really helps this big time. No end game is cool, or not. You know what I mean? No grind in game. Like, if you want to grind, you can, but there'll be an end to this title, at least until they do DLC or whatever.
Yeah, and I like that because they have a lot of cool classes that feel good. So if I want I put this in quotes, end game, load up another character, see what that's all about. And that's kind of what I like. It reminds me a little bit of Borderlands. And I know that's a really weird comparison because Borderlands is masterful in its gameplay. But it really does remind me of that, where you do have an end game in Borderlands, but eventually it does stop. And you kind of have your main character that you go back to for all the new content, but then you load up a new character, or in Borderlands, you can do that New Game Plus. There's a lot of ways to kind of go through it. So if they take that path, this game, I think, will last. If they take the full, like, co-op, constant adding of DLC, Borderlands 3, for all the shit I gave it, and I'm not really into it, I'm still shocked when I see more DLC coming. They're doing a director's cut. They're adding more levels, it is a completely different game now, and that's great for those who really cared. For me, Borderlands 3, loved the gameplay, but the story just absolutely failed me completely. And it showed how much that kind of mattered for that game after 2 sort of set a precedent. But I do think that, the clock is immediately ticking for this game, because if it doesn't get going right away, they know that they've got some titles breathing down their neck ending this month, and in especially May, where things get really crowded, where I do wonder, also end of the year conversation where we're talking game of the year, we're talking about things we really liked. Was this a flash in the pan kind of moment where we said, hey, we were just bored and we had something to do? And I know it may sound funny for those of you out there who's got a Switch and you got Monster Hunter Rise, you're like, what, I wasn't bored. But for most of us, it was just the next big release, and we all hopped on it because there was nothing to hop on. And we've seen delays, so it was worth hopping on for everybody to give us something. Whereas at the end of the year, when we got everything and it's all said and done, did this matter as much? That's what will be interesting to see. I think just based off my taste, I'll be hanging around this game a little bit, but we'll see, of course, as I crawl to the end of the game, not the end game itself.
And I don't grind for fuck, so I won't be.
Yeah,
I don't grind. Like, I think it's awesome that it has an end. In fact, that's probably one of the positives for me out of this game. I mean, you could certainly return if you wanted and play another, but to me, I think it's awesome, and I'm glad that they decided that they didn't need to do some, bullshit long ending. So, like, somebody like you, if you want to replay it and pick different characters, you can do that, but you know that you don't need to, like, grind for hours at the end to get some. You can. It's just not... I don't know. That just feels good to me. And I don't know if you saw, but Avengers dropped their patrol announcement. And so it's like, in the future, are we going to see patrols for this? And I got to say, I would not have an issue with that. In fact, I think right now I feel like Outriders is basically just a bunch of patrol levels, because of the story not being the greatest, but just a bunch of patrol levels put together anyway. So the idea of, like, possibly jumping in your car, your Russian... customizable for no reason semi-truck. By the way,
right?
I'm teasing, but I love that it's customizable for no reason. I'm okay with that. But it would be cool if they're like, hey, man, you can go somewhere else for these patrols. You go out, and it's like, got to keep the world safe. So there's some cool DLC that they could do that, I mean, it may not set the world on fire, but not all games need to. I mean, not all games need to be Destiny. Destiny wasn't even Destiny when it first came out, you jackasses. Like, all these games have changed so much.
Shit wasn't.
It wasn't. It wasn't. And now it isn't because they removed some content. So I guess you can't say Destiny's ever been Destiny.
Yeah, so we hope the audience writes in about this game. We'll have more to share next week when we've put more time into it and we're closer to that final review. But we wanted to give you all some initial impressions on what is, while not a Xbox kind of exclusive title or anything like that, Game Pass, we know it makes it something that's on a lot of your radars automatically. And so, yeah, give it a look. Definitely, I'd say worth a download. So go ahead, try it out, and share some of your thoughts. Of course, for those of you who listen to Ham, our thoughts will have developed by the time we sit down and record for that show. So
true.
With that, let's get into some of our warm-up questions, starting off with Cody Richter. Hey, Carrick and Maddie, what are some games or game genres that you guys personally enjoy that might catch us by surprise? We all know you're an RPG guy, Maddie, but what else do you play? Maybe Carrick likes to let loose on some Just Dance, and Maddie gets down to some Fortnite. Who knows? Joking aside, I'd love to hear what are your guilty pleasures of gaming. I don't know if we would just want to surprise them with genres. I'm going to say mine isn't a guilty pleasure. I'm a big Dragon Ball Super card game fan, though. I play that shit borderline religiously, pre-pandemic, of course. Now, with it being hard to get into gatherings, you can't really, and they don't have a digital version. They have some fan-made ones where you can use pictures of the cards online. But yeah, when I say I played that every week, I'm not even kidding. Every single Wednesday, and sometimes Tuesdays as well, if I was really feeling it, I'd go and play for about 3-4 hours weekly for about 2.5, almost 3 years. And I could have seen myself doing that for the rest of my life. So hopefully when it's sad. I'll put it this way. This will be the guilty pleasure part. Out of a lot of things I think about when the pandemic's over, I want to travel. I can't wait to see my friends. And in terms of hobbies, this is number one, 100%. Like, I'm so excited to get back into it. And I've been like collecting cards on the side just to make sure when it starts up, I'm ready. You know, I've got all my ammunition. I'm prepared.
Geared up.
In terms of video games, though, I mean, Dynasty Warriors maybe, but I think those games are fucking good. That's not a guilty pleasure, but maybe a trading card game that Maddie's obsessed with would surprise you. What about you?
I mean, I'm open about Sims 4, so I don't think that's a surprise, but I would say that my Skylander.
Oh my God, he's got him right in front of him.
Dude, I've got every Skylander. Every one. So
I love that.
Any gauntlet style game, because I'm a huge gauntlet style game, even though we've talked about like the Mordor game where you could be the fake Gandalf, fake Gimli, fake Aragorn, you know, any of those 3 or 4 person looking 3/4 down on a character as they're battling. I love Skylanders. It's like beyond belief. It's an absolute blast to level up my characters. And so yeah, that would be, and Disney Infinity as well. Disney Infinity, I just played night before last, streamed to my tablet for my PC. So my PC is running it at 4K. It's streaming to my tablet, and it looks like a fucking Pixar movie because it's so high res, and I'm playing it just going like, dude, this is so good. Like these kind of games. Yeah, any of those childhood, just like Toy Story 3, I'm a big fan of.
Toy Story 3. Oh,
yeah. It's one of the greatest games that nobody probably even knows about until somebody mentions it. And a lot of people I know didn't even know there was a Toy Story 3 game. So any of those cartoony games, most likely you'll actually find out I'm a fan of. But Skylanders would probably be the one that I guess people wouldn't expect from me.
Yeah, Toy Story 3. I'm sorry, you completely pulled me off track. I was going to say, you know,
so
Disney's got some surprisingly good ones, right? Infinity and all of that stuff. But, dude, Toy Story 3 is a fucking masterpiece of a game.
And so made by a lot of the developers that did Skylanders and did Disney Infinity. And that's why I think I like those, is because there is they were toys to, what was it called? Toys to Life?
Toys to Life.
I
liked Lego Dimensions. That one was really
Lego
cool.
Dimensions.
How did that flop? I never understood that.
I'll tell you how it flopped. Dude, they demanded you put the fucking Lego together in the middle of the game. It was a terrible idea. Remember? So they'd be like, oh, you need a motorbike. You had to take the bitch off and put them. And I got to tell you, at some point, if I want to jump and I can't jump from thing to thing, I start to bow out. And I have all the episodes of Lego Dimensions. I think it's a great idea, but that's not a good idea. There's got to be a thing where it's like you've saved it, you're good enough. You don't need to redo it. And that game would to me.
Yeah, I remember that, dude, because I remember thinking how awesome the idea was. I was like a kid on Christmas. My parents were asking me, "What do you want?" And I saw Lego Dimensions. I went, "Dude, I can build these things and fucking put them in the
Simpsons,
it made too much
Ghostbusters."
Sense. Yeah, it was incredible. They had some awesome level packs.
Yep.
I gotta say, the Lego Dimensions really underrated, but it sadly wasn't executed as well in the terms of its getting stuff into the game. You'd always have to have everything in front of you. You'd have to have a table for the Legos next to you so that you could pull things off and put them on whenever you needed them. Good for kids, though. Maybe for me when I was like, 19, 20? Maybe not.
Or me 1 year ago, but whatever.
Jake Williams is our next write-in. Hey, Maddie and Carrick, I think we can all agree Microsoft did very poorly during the Xbox One generation and had highlights such as Game Pass, the Master Chief Collection, when it worked, and Gears 5. Since the start of the current generation, and even a year or two prior, Microsoft has made some amazing moves that I think can give us all hope for the future of Xbox. My question is, what is your guys' opinion on the current trajectory of Xbox? Are we on a good path, or do you think they could be doing stuff differently? Thanks for the awful podcast. P.S. Maddie, are you an Atlanta Falcons fan? Yes, I am. I've been a fan for a decent amount of time. I lived through the awful Super Bowl, so go ahead and use that as your deadline. Anyway, what do you think of the current trajectory? Word, I can't say it. Trajectory that they are on. Yeah, right. That's a hard one to get out.
It's pretty good. I wasn't as negative on it as maybe it's because I liked my Sega Saturn. I've been the second best system many times. So like you know what I mean. So I wasn't like crying.
Yeah,
they got Titan
day one. So
they had like Titanfall exclusive and some weird exclusives that it didn't always work. But Rise, by the way, fuck you if you don't like Rise. You're a bad person. Mm-hmm. Rise is awesome. Mm-hmm. So yes, it's better. It's much better as a zeitgeist, the entire world. But to me, it doesn't really change much other than I'm happy to see the competition. I really do feel that they all need competition.
Yep.
They all need competition. So.
Yeah, that's what Dustin and I agreed on, is that really after the Bethesda acquisition and some aggressive Game Pass moves, it's not that they're above PlayStation. I think they are now equaling out is how I define it. So I like the trajectory they're on, but a lot of people are super quick to pat and then massage the back of both these companies. And I don't like that, really. We can applaud, say, Game Pass Day 1 Outriders. That's awesome, because you and I can have this conversation at the front of our show, be like, hey, we got this game early, here are our thoughts, and the audience doesn't have to decide, do I spend $70 or $60 on this? Just do I download this? That's cool. So yeah, we'll applaud that type of stuff, but the over-applauding to the point that your hands are fucking sore, some people do that, I think, a little too much, because finally we have something to be interested in. I think is not even excited about, just, hey, they're making some really interesting moves that have potential. I think the excitement should really start to kick in if they continue to make those aggressive Game Pass deals where you're saving money, kind of like you will be with Outriders. But more importantly, I think we're going to see things, or when we see things, like from the Bethesda deal, their first-party exclusives. Last year they did good. I always make sure to give them credit. Last year, I think, was the start of a new chapter for them. You nailed Ori, you nailed Microsoft Flight Sim, and you nailed Gears Tactics. You launched the system. You had to delay Halo. That and the gameplay showcase are probably the worst things that they did that come to mind immediately. But overall, they've stayed aggressive, rolling EA Play into Game Pass. That started to really, I think, spread the word on, hey, this was not just a good value. It's like incredible now. And so, yeah, we're getting the ball rolling here, but I want people to remain critical of them. We have stuff to be excited about now, but all I'll say is I look at what PlayStation's doing, especially with the taking down of their digital storefronts, and we don't know if they're going to set up a Nintendo Online kind of retro service where they're going to add a PS2, PS1, PS3 game in or something like that. I doubt it. But we don't know if they're setting something up like that right now. But for the time being, I feel like when you start to give these companies the long leash, you start to see the cross-play issue with PlayStation. You start to see the taking down of backwards compatibility, the kind of lifting your nose up in the sky because they're like, hey, we got it. Why would we do this, right? Why do we need to do this right now? We don't got to win you over. So really just remain critical, hold them accountable, But in the terms of their trajectory, yeah, if they keep making moves like this, people are going to be really satisfied. I think it's going to be about the execution of their first party now. They could spend $20 billion. It doesn't matter if they're not putting out those good games. So that's where I personally sit on it.
Yeah, and I mean, I do have to add, if Phil Spencer comes to my house and pats me on the back, great, but I'm not going to pat Microsoft on the back until he does. I find that idiotic. You shouldn't pat him on the back. Who gives a shit? My success or my happiness with Microsoft is commensurate with my spending on games from Microsoft. That's it. That's it. They don't deserve anything from me. They don't offer me anything. People who are doing that are like people who are dating sex dolls, man. They're used for one thing, not the other thing. They're not going to give you emotional pleasure.
How do you
might
conjure
feel good.
these things in your head? I mean, my God.
Because, well, dude, isn't it like that though? Like you get some pleasure from it, but you don't need to love them. It's disturbing as fuck to me, and I think the quicker we just put that shit away, man, like the better off we'll all be. It's like people are holding on to shit too much.
Well, the reason I approach it this way is because I see like the creation of almost PR like material, like promotional stuff for these companies, and it's no offense to the fans because I get they like what they're doing, but I mean, at a point I'm like, does this person work? They don't, and I'm not even saying it in a fanboy way. It's like, oh, what the fuck? This looks like official material, and I just find that worrying because there's a level of dedication there, but that's also very easy to take advantage of.
And very easy to say, oh, it's on you to have figured out it wasn't real. I just made it appear like it was. Mm-hmm. And that's why
the trickery. It's more so the blatant like adoration to make marketing material for them.
Yeah. I mean, I guess to me they're just all connected because I feel in a way it's almost the same thing as like how reviews go if you get a copy or you don't get a copy and if you buy them and all that stuff. But yeah, regardless, it's all sort of interconnected and there's a lot of whoredom, and I think the less whores we are for the companies and the less we demand that they are for us, it becomes a business transaction that's highly successful and highly rewarding for the gamer to not have an emotional connection. It's one of the reasons why we've talked about we've even stopped. Look at Spider-Man, it's like, it's going to be fucking co-op. It's going to be, you're going to plug your PS4 into your fucking back of your head. And then we sat there and we're like, whoa, it was fun. It was fun. And you can certainly do a podcast about that, but that's a bad play in the long run if it happens all the time. Right. And it happened with Cyberpunk, and to me, it happened with Werewolf, the apocalypse of all things. Because, well, I wasn't as high as people were, but I wanted Werewolf to be good. So,
of course,
yeah, it's gonna be cool. Competition is awesome. We need some competition in the handheld space. Motherfuckers. Microsoft may be there. I don't know, Maddie. Let's talk real quick before you ask the next question. I feel like Microsoft is now the handheld competitor.
It's
just
funny
because
you
of all the
that.
streaming.
It's funny you mentioned that just because we do have a news thing here today. We could pop it in a little bit here. Of the addition of backwards compatible titles to xCloud. And,
really?
Oh, you didn't
I didn't even know this.
Oh,
no, I didn't see it at all.
Do you want to save that for the news, or do you want to talk a little bit?
No, let's. Well,
we're almost in the news.
Yeah, we'll cover it in the news section then. Okay. I was not aware of that.
No, it's pretty cool. Yeah, there's a whole list of games that we'll be going over. All right, let's get into Jared Robinson. Hey guys, loving how the show is developing. It's really coming to its own. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Jared. I'm starting to my own gaming podcast here in Australia. Don't worry, I'm not here trying to plug my own shit. But I'm going about setting up. Sorry, there's a couple typos in here I didn't adjust. I'm going about setting up for my podcast. It's really made me look at what I want to do and why I want to do it about video games / the gaming industry in general. And it made me really curious as to what really made you guys want to commit to this line of work. What was the driving force that made you fully dive in? Not looking for advice or anything, just really curious for shits and giggles. Was it out of passion, a desire to create, a want to get fame, a way to get into the industry, etc.? P.S. I'd weigh in on all the food debates, but we have fuck all where I'm from in Australia. If it wasn't for this podcast, I'd assume Five Guys was some type of male brothel. Cheers.
Wow.
Stay safe. Crazy.
That's a good comparison right there. Five Guys was some kind of male brothel. That right there deserves to be in a character review. But I will say, I got laid off. That's why I'm here. Like I'm very clear. I was doing them prior, but I got laid off. So I can't say it was like it became a passion when I got laid off, and I was like, let's do this. But I don't know what would have happened had I was getting paid some ducats, so I probably would have unfortunately stayed there at least for a while.
Understandable. I mean, yeah, you got to provide. For me, I was younger, so I kind of was in on this already. The revenue I was generating was nothing close to full time or anything like that. And I'm not to get into a full story about it, but I liked what I did, but more of that was driven. Obviously, I was passionate about gaming. That was kind of a given. I think my passion now is much stronger than it was back then, which is kind of interesting. But back then, it was really a disdain for the education system. And I tried to get a couple of jobs. Like I tried to do landscaping. I was invited to work at a shoe store. And my thought was, and this is going to sound kind of entitled, but I hope it doesn't come across that way, is why would I want to work at these places? Not because you know it's bad to work there, but I was like, I want to do something that excites me. I don't get excited working for your shoe company or mowing lawns. I love the idea of doing hard work, and you know, I still mow lawns and I still do snow shoveling and all that stuff for my neighbors. And oftentimes I don't even ask them for money. I really don't, unless they're like, you have to take this. So it's nothing to do with that, but it's really the desire, you know, to the understanding of, hey, I've got it really good and I'm going to kind of take the ball and run with it. So that's how it all came together, was a desire to get out of kind of the rhythm I saw a lot of people in my life in, go to school, get a job, settle down with a family. And I was just like, I kind of want to kick that trend a little bit deeper in my lore here. When I was in second grade, wanted to be a lawyer. The reason I was that way is because my parents always said, go be a lawyer, you argue all the time with us. And so from there, I kind of ran with it like, yeah, I'm going to be a lawyer one day. Because that was me feeling pretty good about my ability to state my case. But then my friend's mother, who's now not with us anymore, so rest her soul, she asked me, you know, what if you didn't have to be a lawyer? What if you could take any dream in the world? What would you want to be? And I didn't realize how impactful my words were then, but I said, I want to talk about video games for the rest of my life. And, you know, we had a good chuckle about that. It was hilarious because it wasn't feasible. So it's just kind of funny how, to me, this is a dream actualized. So, you know, the driving force was really getting out of a rhythm I saw around me. My brother, you know, one of the hardest working guys I know, but he went to school, got buried in debt. And I went to a community college because I saw that debt and went, I don't want to be paying you money. And when I worked my ass off, I don't like that system at all. So it was really bucking the trend, trying to find my own path. And it led me here. And then once I was given an opportunity to go full-time in 2016 is when I officially went full-time. I did end up going back to school, finishing up just an associate's degree, nothing special at all, general studies, like really kind of just bullshit. But once I finished all that up, I was like, okay, if I want to go back to school, I can just tackle whatever major I want and go in that way. I don't have to worry about learning math again and all that shit. I can do what I want to do, is probably animal science. But yeah, it was really just a love for games and a desire to kind of not follow the traditional path. And so that's how I ended up here. And then Colin said, come do an Xbox podcast. Yeah. All right. Bobby Rigo is up next. Hey, Maddie and Carrick. I hope you guys are having a respectable 4 out of 10 day. Sounds like Outriders story. Why is everyone hopeful for sequels to games that many people playing games today haven't even heard of? When we hear a studio acquisition, many people are quick to go, oh man, here comes a insert old IP sequel. That's great and all, but that's not going to bring people into the Xbox ecosystem. We all know Xbox has an IP issue with their major franchises' first entries debuting 10 plus years ago. But wouldn't you think Xbox should be pushing for new IP to foster new communities and franchises? If anything, it's overwhelming to see Gears 6 get announced and feel like, ugh, I got to play 5 games before I get to play this new one. So ultimately, my question is, what are your guys' takes on the new games going forward for Xbox? Do you feel Xbox should be investing more into new IP to build a new ecosystem? Or do you feel like Xbox should continue to grow their current, let's be honest, lacking existing franchises? Love the show. You guys are doing great work. Take care, boys. Thank you, Bobby. Carrick, what do you make of the IP situation? Oftentimes it's about the resurrection, but we got someone here who's saying, what if we just pushed all new? instead of basking in what's already there, Gears Tactics, for example, being one that is, we both love Gears Tactics, but Gears Tactics being an example of a game that, hey, you might want to know some of this franchise, Halo Wars. Hey, you might want to know some of this. Is there what do you envision if Xbox were to pursue something new? I feel like we've seen that path a little bit. We've seen some successes and some pretty big failures. We saw Cuphead, which was phenomenal, no longer exclusive to Xbox, but what is still exclusive to Xbox, at least originally, was Ori. But then you look at something like Scalebound, and that didn't turn out all too well. Xbox nearly ending one of my favorite developers of all time, Platinum Games. So there's a yin and yang to this situation. Let's check the temperature on you. What do you take about games going forward with Xbox? We see a new studio being set up like The Initiative, and they're taking Perfect Dark. Does dormancy account into this? Because I think it does to some extent, bringing something back, giving people time to miss it. But I also think there should be that pursuing of something new like we've seen PlayStation do. It's a tough balance, right? You don't want to leave too much in the past. It's one of the things I like about Xbox, but you also want to see them embrace some new ideas. So what do you make of their situation and where maybe they should go?
Sea of Thieves is the biggest new IP that we've seen ever. So I don't know. I mean, how many?
Ever? I didn't know that.
From them, yeah. Sorry, I should say from them. In fact, actually, You might want to check. It might be one of the biggest new IPs total now. It's massive. So Sea of Thieves alone is one new one. State of Decay. They do new stuff, and they do old stuff. I totally agree that when somebody says, oh my God, this is going to be awesome, because Microsoft made a game 67 years ago, and they might do a sequel. Great. But also you got to remember that just because somebody's 18 doesn't mean somebody else isn't 45, and just because somebody's 45 doesn't mean somebody else is 18. People are fucking every day, which means they're having babies every 9 months. And so those kids are getting into gaming. As of today, somebody bought an Xbox day one in my Discord. They've never owned a console. They're 16. So that goes to show that they might be more interested in a Sea of Thieves. They might not know what Gears 6 is. But I got to tell you one thing. Where one person says, oh my God, I got to play 6. Another person might be like, Game Pass has 6 friggin' Gears of War games. That's amazing. So I think that if we put our foot down on any one side too strongly, we just sound stupid. I mean, it's a legacy, and you make your legacy daily as well. So, I mean, if Michael Jordan had one good year, an amazing year, and then just stopped, people would be like, well, that was a pretty good year. But I mean, he didn't. He just continued to do well. And that's exactly what companies need to do. And they'll fail, and they'll also succeed. I mean, it's just, look at Days Gone. You couldn't tell me that there wasn't a more bankrupt, like mentally bankrupt and creatively bankrupt game as Days Gone from Sony.
I agree. A lot of people like that game, but a
lot of people are wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to tell them their opinions wrong, but I mean, I gotta say, I strongly disagree with the people who are like, it's a hidden
but you
gem.
Get my drift. Yeah,
it's a diamond in the rough. I'm like, I don't know if zombie open world with hordes is really what I'd call a fucking hidden gem. I call it a PlayStation exclusive that's not doing what a couple of other third-person open world PlayStation exclusives are doing.
Yeah.
And that shit was buggy.
Yeah, I think
it's not anymore. But
that was it. And it's just creatively bankrupt. When you play it, you're like, speaking of bad stories, right? Or speaking of stories that don't grab you, it grabbed you better, of course, than Outriders. I'm not in any way, shape, or form saying it didn't, but I do feel that it missed there. And they all tried different
too long,
stuff.
In my opinion. That was what it was. I was like, God, this is still going.
Dude. And oh man, there's some shit. We'll have to talk about it in a different podcast, but there's some shit that happens in that game that straight up still doesn't make sense in the narrative timeline that I have never had anybody explain to me and say, this is why this happened at this time. Where you know where you see like somebody go halfway somewhere and then turn around and go all the way back because they say it's too far, and you're like, but you're already 50% of the way there.
Oh my God, yeah.
Do you know
before you get to the snow area?
Yeah, and you're just like, what's happening? What's happening right now? It happened in Mad Max Furiosa Road or whatever the shit Mad Max movie was too, where they went halfway there and then turned around, and you're like, what are you doing? What's happening right now? So. It'll be, I mean.
So a couple of things on Sea of Thieves, just to add this to Bobby Rigo's comments, is Polygon reported Sea of Thieves passes 15 million players, has its biggest month ever. This was July 20th, 2020. where it says June 2020 saw over 3.3 million active players alone, which is pretty crazy. What's really interesting is this is 3 years after the game's life cycle, right? It came out in 2017. I'm looking at just the Steam charts now. They hit a peak. Their all-time peak is 66,000. This was June 2020. And then half a year later, a little bit over half a year later, January 2021, they hit 52,916 peak players. In the last 30 days, their peak has been 22,000, so it's not like it dropped off in the terms of it dying. It has dropped off, though. But Sea of Thieves is a new IP that is extremely popular. That is for sure.
And Avengers had 804.
Let's check Avengers again. We've been doing this.
Let's check Avengers. We got to do this weekly.
Avengers Steam player count. Let's see what we got.
People are probably
here.
wondering why I have a plastic fork, and my answer is I have no fucking clue. It was just sitting here, and I fiddle with stuff, just so people know. Anyway.
All right, so its peak in the last 30. Oh my, wow. Okay. So its peak was at launch with 28,000 players. That was its all-time peak.
Okay, not bad.
After that, 1 month later, its next highest peak was October at 3,286.
That's a drop.
Within February 2021, its peak players was 779. And then recently, because of the updates, it has popped up to 2,712 at its peak. It says, as of 40 minutes ago, Carrick, 1,478 players. So they have had a 1,000 player increase. Yeah, don't get this game. But just your daily temperature check, or weekly, temperature check on Avengers.
And that just got the Hawkeye. It just got the Hawkeye DLC.
Can you see me? My webcam completely disappeared on my...
your webcam disappeared on my end too.
That's extremely weird. It just completely shut off.
Just make sure that people know that we've had tech issues on.
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
Don't wonder what's happening.
Dude, it says my webcam's on. That's what's weird.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, like my webcam has like a light on it, and it's on right now. Oh
yeah, it shows you recording actually on my side too, but it's just got the microphone.
I'll disable and then enable.
Enable.
I don't know what's going on right now. What in the world? All right, well, Carrick, you might have to deal with no Maddie face for the rest of the show. I don't know what just happened.
So weird.
I'm terrified now, because here's what's going to happen. I know Dustin, he's going to take a horrible fucking photo of me and just put it. He probably may have not even had that idea, but knowing Dustin, I feel like that's what's going to happen.
Put a horrible photo for... Oh, you're back.
I'm back. Fuck you, Dustin.
What
Let's
the
go.
hell's... Yeah. I have no clue. Just so people know, man, Windows Update has borked pretty much every single thing I'm aware of.
Mine did not successfully install after begging me, hands and knees. Microsoft was like, please install us. Constant updates every hour. I was like, fine, I'll fucking do it. And I do it, and they're like, we failed to install your entire update. I'm like, of course you did. God forbid you do it right the first time.
They're Windows. How do they fuck that? Anyway, Anyway.
Adaholics, our fifth and final intro question an hour in, and then we'll get to the news. Ahoy, boys. Quick question. With Sony deciding to shut down the PlayStation 3, PSP, and Vita stores, this is a huge feather in the cap for Microsoft. Do you think this would be a good time for them to double down on backwards compatibility? Guess what they did. I feel like with this news out in the open and people questioning, rightfully so, Sony's game preservation, Microsoft announcing a fresh batch of backwards games would be a huge PR win, and I'd love to see some more added since it's been a bit. Thanks, and keep making the best Xbox podcast out there, and I'll keep being the most horrible reader of all time. All right, so this is something that's really just bothered me for a while, is I would love to see a new backwards compatible edition of titles. I want to see more of that. There goes my camera again. God damn it. Anyway.
Oh, yep, it did. It'll fix itself or it won't.
Yeah, it will. So, continuing on. What do you make of Xbox's back compat program? Do you see a shift, right, where we see them going into FPS boost, and is that their new focus now? Like, let's make the more current games even better, because that's really what counts. It's not about nostalgia. Here I am again. I don't know what's going on with this camera, but anyway, what do you think of the future of their BC program?
Yeah, I'm gonna on this one. I'm gonna say I don't really have a opinion, because I don't really know where they're going or how they're going about it. And it sounds like we're going to read some news here on the streaming. I think I'm more interested in the streaming stuff versus back compat, because I think with backwards compat, we've probably hit the major titles I want. I would also say, not to be rude, but I think he's so hyperbolish that he may actually sprain himself on his his little rainbow. The idea that it's like it could be a massive, cap in Microsoft. No, that's those two, dude. They're somewhat related, but they're nowhere near. You're not gonna see some person be like, "All right, they canceled the PS3 store. Fuck Sony, I'm buying an Xbox." Sorry, or if there are, it's not gonna be a huge number, man. Come on. Like that's really hyperbole. That's really hyperbole, and that's coming from somebody who thinks it's dumb to turn it off. By the way, it doesn't make any sense. I do like the fact that they did state now that if you have those on your download list, you can still download them. Which I think we all assumed, because Steam does that too. If they're gone, they're still gettable if you've bought them. So they're still there if you own them. You can't go and get them though. As in, you can't buy them once they're gone. But I don't really.
I feel bad for Vita developers. I know there's very few of them out there.
Yeah, that too.
But
that too.
A lot of devs have had to. They're losing lots of money on them. And there was like an ecosystem there. There were people who said like, I want to support the Vita, and they would seek out these devs. Colin and Lilymo being one of them, but also many others. And they kind of just got the door closed on them. And I found that really strange. I feel like, at most, I get the idea, hey, the Vita's kind of dead and gone. I'll say that. But the idea that you can't let people know, like a development team know, like, hey, you released a game recently, just want to let you know we're doing this.
Right.
You don't gotta like jump and do something crazy for them, saying like, hey, we'll move it back to make sure you can get your game out in time. But just letting them know ahead of everyone else's, I think that would do a lot. In the terms of, back compat, I mean, we have some news today that we're going to get into very soon, and I'll just say that a lot of people are like, hey, this is really cool, and there was an excitement for it, and people were happy about it, but it really wasn't the excitement of, like, fuck Sony and go Xbox. It was just like, hey, this is awesome.
It's just one more value add.
Exactly. They had that chance to sort of, and technically they did say, like, they dropped back compat, here's what we're doing.
Yeah.
And this is something, though, that adding 360 games to a streamable backwards compatibility program isn't something you do overnight and say, hey, they dropped that PS3 store and we're about to make them eat shit here. They don't.
A long time in coming.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that.
I do like the idea. Oh, sorry.
Sorry. No,
I was just going to say, I do like the idea, though, that somehow they're that good, right? That Microsoft's asleep. Phil's got his fucking, Nintendo pillow. And he's asleep. He wakes up. They're like, we're canceling.
I could see that.
So could I. We're canceling, Vita, blah, blah, blah. We're canceling the store. And Phil's like, calls up somebody and is all, dude, how would it take us just like a day to get the 360 games on backwards compat streaming? And they're all, oh, yeah, dude, easy, man. We just haven't done it because we've been busy playing fucking ColecoVision. I love it.
All right. Well, we got a lot of exciting news to get into this week. I shouldn't say a lot. It's one of our shorter lists, but we still have a lot to talk about in the terms of games coming to Xbox, less exciting ones at that. Let's start off with Games with Gold. Does Games with Gold need to go? The conversation is surfacing, as it seems to, every month. With Xbox Game Pass continuously adding momentum down that highway, Games with Gold is serving as a toll booth for that value package. April's package of games you can download for free are Vikings, Wolves of Midgar, Truck Racing Championship, Dark Void, and Hardcore's Uprising, which does look like a decent game, I will say.
So is Dark Void for a lot of people.
Yeah, I did see that. Hilariously, the Post writes that this is $129.96 in total value that you're getting through these 4 games. Anthony A. writes in, hello, Dukes. We have reached the end of the month, so the time has come again for Xbox to announce the next month's Games with Gold. Instead of groundbreaking AAA games or indie darlings, we are given the likes of Truck Racing Championship and Vikings, Wolves of Midgar, to name 2. I'm not one to normally criticize anything that is free, and I agree with that. However, I seriously am questioning Microsoft's commitment to games with gold when they continually give us subpar games month after month in direct contrast to their main competition. For a company that seems to be hitting a lot of home runs lately, this has become a somewhat embarrassing thing for them. Microsoft needs to revamp games with gold or get rid of it entirely. Regards, Anthony. All right.
No.
Does not need to go in your opinion. Okay, let's talk about that.
Dude, come on. First of all, he's touting up PSN as if it's like some massive, awesome thing. It's had 2 fucking good months. Calm down. Like, they're, a competitor that's just completely awesome. No, not at all. Not at all. Additionally, they do have a lot of confidence in games with gold. Do you know how we know that? They keep giving you shit games, and they're not stopping. That's a lot of confidence, right? That's the confidence of somebody who doesn't get dressed up in the morning and still goes on a date.
And going, you're going to download that.
Exactly, exactly. He's the chick that knows she doesn't have to put makeup on and just shows up for the date. Like, that's, dude, I just don't give a fuck, man. It's there, it's free. He's right about not bitching about free stuff. He's also right about it being shitty. So you can say that's some shitty free stuff, right? Like, if you got herpes for free, you would still be able to say that's some shitty free herpes.
Our brains work so differently. I was thinking, like, maybe, you're at a friend's house. They put, like, a pretty ass meal in front of you. You're like, oh, it's food. You're just like, you get herpes.
Oh, yeah. No herpes. I jumped straight to the STD. But, yeah, dude, I mean, I don't know about you, but I get the thought process. But, man, stop touting up Sony as being some magic mule that fucking, crawls out of Death Valley with all these amazing games on its back. Because that's fucking not what has ever happened. So I just hate that shit. And both sides. I think he's right, though. I'd love to see it go, but I'm not going to lament that it's still there.
Yeah, much like with Xbox ramping things up with Game Pass, I feel like PS Plus has really ramped things up in the last couple of months.
2 months in particular has been great.
Yeah, they did Final Fantasy. They're doing Oddworld. We saw Bugsnax as a launch game for free. So, yeah, there have been some really great ones, and there's no denying that they are beating the living hell out of Microsoft in this category. But what I think we're more likely seeing is Microsoft, I don't know if they're trying to sunset it. I don't want to go that far because they tried to increase the price, and what you're really seeing is, thanks to Game Pass being so good, Xbox has to make a choice monthly. Do we excite people with a new thing that's going to be our future, or do we put this really cool Outriders, do we put that into games with gold? The other thing is, these are games that you download and own. They are yours. You own them. With games with gold, or I'm sorry, with Game Pass, you end up renting them, essentially, for a temporary point of time, and then you can choose to buy them and have it forever if you'd like. So what you're seeing is, I think they have a budget, somehow. It's Microsoft. Yeah. But I think they're given a budget, and they're like, Game Pass and games with gold, figure out how you're going to spend all of this. And yeah, I'm going to spend that money on fucking Game Pass. That is an alluring library, and we want people in that because we're going to make a streamable app. We're doing it on your phones, on your TVs at some point. That is their future. So I don't blame them for saying, hey, let's throw all of our money at Game Pass. And yeah, you're going to get some pretty weird-looking titles for games with gold until they have enough subscribers on Game Pass that they can say, we're going to shut this down.
How much is games with gold
addition
per
by
month,
subtraction.
Maddie?
I think if you're a gold member... see, this is the difference. If you're an Xbox Game Pass Ultimate member, you get gold. So you get games with gold rolled into Game Pass, essentially, right? That's kind of what's happening.
What if you're
here.
not? What would games with
I don't
gold
know.
cost?
I have not been an individual live subscriber for a while.
Then Microsoft should just say, we're getting rid of gold. You get 2 games free, and it's still gold. They just pretend it's not.
I just did a video on this, so I apologize for forgetting. But let's see here. On their original price change, okay, 1 month for $10, 3 months for $25, 6 months for $40, and 12 months for $60.
Yeah, there you go. Just drop the games with gold to 2 games a year or 2 games a month, and just give them away to the Game Pass subscribers. And they wouldn't even have to change their systems internally. They could pretend they were, but it would still just be games with gold. It would just be in there instead. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't know anybody who's just games with gold. I mean,
well, yeah,
anybody.
because here's the thing: you look at it this way, and it's intentional pricing, by the way. It reminds me of what I was looking at a smart TV package, and I think it was a Cartoon Network, an ESPN, and something else that could come together for 12 months, or you could pay $10 for each, and you're like, well, why wouldn't I just get the $12 a month one?
Yeah.
And then you realize they're all owned by the same entity, and you're like, okay, so they want me to go for what is I put this in quotes, intentional value package. So what's happening here is you see Xbox Live Gold's $10 for 1 month, or you look at Game Pass Ultimate, which is $15, and you're like, I get this whole library and gold. So essentially gold is $5, as it should be. And that's a way more appealing thing. So I feel like gold it's the same thing, and it sounds very conspiracy theorist, but I think gold is not intentionally bad, but I think gold exists at that price point so that you get interested in Game Pass. Just like how I say to people, Game Pass is going to over-deliver before they charge you more, because right now they may be doing Game Pass at a loss, but otherwise, across all of Xbox, with the revenue that's generated and stuff, Xbox as a whole is profitable, so they can be at a loss for something like Game Pass. And they'll continue to be that way until they're like, all right, let's ramp this shit up now.
So let me give you a comparison. Diet Citrus Drop. That's what this is called, right?
Oh, okay.
Fake Mountain Dew. I am drinking the games with gold version of Mountain Dew. And you look at it and you're like, 59 cents is called Citrus Drop or Mountain Dew for $1.29. They'll just leave it up there. They're just going to leave it up there for a while. And the thing is I would say don't dwell on it, because shitty car manufacturers exist. VCR companies used to have 5, 6, 7 lines of VCRs, with the top one being a completely different name. So you'd look and go, oh, that's 80. Oh, this one's 90, but it's got blah, blah, blah. TVs do it. You have TVs where they're all the same screen, but they're completely different company manufacturer names. Happens all the time. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think it's just there to sell. Well, it is now. It was originally there to do other things. But I think now it's just there to sell, and there's nothing wrong with leaving it, because, I mean, what's it harming people? It's almost like people actively want to beat it up, which is weird. I mean, I don't even think about it.
I'll say I'm there. I'm pushing it in fucking lockers, Carrick. I'm beating the fuck out of
Oh,
this
I know
thing.
you are, because I hear you guys mention it all the time. I guess I
You
just
see
don't
my
think
tweet?
about
I was just like, this feels like a twisted joke at this point. I was like, this shit's
No, and
not
I
good anymore.
tweeted saying I remember waking up in the middle of the night having to play Vikings the next day because I wasn't a huge fan of that game. So, like, I get you. No, I get you. Yeah.
Yeah, I get why, because I feel like I would rather the value be in Game Pass. Some people may ask, well, why not both? I just don't think that's feasible in this. Once again, I look at Microsoft and I'm like, you guys got trillions of dollars. Like, yeah, they could figure it out 100% and give you day one releases for all 4 of your Games with Gold's titles. But I just think with where they want to trend as a company and their business model, it's best just to keep Games with Gold alive, because you need to keep your live members in general. They said they have like 90 million. That's a ton of money that they're making every month.
Man.
Yeah, and Game Pass is just passing 20 million probably at this point, or 18 million when we last heard. So they're probably passing 20 million with Outriders and a couple of other titles coming in from Square Enix that may have given them a good boost. And so, yeah, they'll continue to ramp that up, but until they can comfortably say, we're going to let this thing go.
Yeah,
but even then, what happens is then if you let Gold go, that's rolled into Ultimate. Yeah. So, that's the thing, is now you've changed the Ultimate packaging. What do you do to supplement that? I wonder about that. Do you, now when Gold goes, is that when you roll in Uplay Plus and say, like, hey, now we've got this instead for Xbox Game Pass Ultimate? I think that's a little far-fetched, but it's just
I think you have thought about it more than all of Microsoft combined. That's what I think. I really do. I just don't think they think about it. I don't think they think about it near as much as we do. It feels obviously by the titles we're getting, it's obvious that they aren't. So, I mean, when I saw Dark Sector, dude, I don't know if anybody remembers Dark Sector, but when I saw Dark Sector and like Viking, yeah, it wasn't bad, but it was that B tier, right? It was the. What was that one by Piranha Bytes prior, or not Piranha Bytes, but by Piranha prior to Technomancer? Bound by Blood. It was like the Bound by Blood. It was like those kind of games where it's like almost
Bound by Flame, you mean the
Bound by Flame.
Spiders,
Thank you. Bound by
Spiders.
Yeah, Spiders. Yeah, dude, I got that all wrong. I'm glad you translated all that into the correct.
You're good. I'm the character.
I said piranhas. And I said Bound by Blood or whatever, or Bound, and you got it right and switched the animal. But yeah, it's I mean, dude, for me, it's like it'll be there forever. Or not forever, but I just don't see it going away unless there's a really good reason, or like a really good solidified reason to switch it. I think it'll stay there.
Yeah, I think it'll hang around too. I think right now, I mean, think of how long Live and now Xbox Network has been around for. They have to really take some time to ramp up.
Yeah.
So we'll see how they try to push that and if they are ever comfortable letting go of gold. But for now, I think you're going to see it stick around. Let's talk about some games, Carrick. Xbox hosted their first showcase of 2021 this past week, and it featured over 60 indie titles, and 20 of them are coming to Game Pass day one. So there was an event. It was called the Twitch Gaming Showcase ID at Xbox. I saw your stream, VOD, right? I saw you tapped out after an hour. I sat through the whole
tapped the
fucking
fuck out.
thing.
Dude, you're dumb, and that's me calling you dumb. Why? 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 That was miserable. And I love the fishing game. That X-Files fishing game.
Yeah.
When they were talking about that and they started, I was like, dude, this game went from okay to like, holy shit, I want to play this. And I still tapped the fuck out right after that was done. I was like, I'm out. Why did you stick around?
Honestly, it was for our show.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
I was just not even putting you on the spot. More
to make sure that you had like all the data.
I had
of all
everything.
the game.
Yeah,
that makes
exactly.
Sure.
Just to guide what we should even talk about when I write the script. Also, I thought, hey, if because the games there were good. That was my problem. The games were awesome. I really have to say, I saw 2 games. I went, that was stupid, or I was not into that. Outside of that, though, everything they showed, I had some type of interest in. Not, I'm going to go play this, but
yeah, it was
there
a bad
some
presentation.
Really cool stuff. But yeah, the unenthusiastic, dreadful Twitch streamers who were just like, yeah, so your game's pretty cool. I'm like, yo, I get that you got to get your money, but can you act like you want to fucking be here? I mean, you're talking about games and interviewing devs, and these fucking people just literally can't help but sit down and
There
go,
was one person who I thought did a really good job, and that was the interviewer. I didn't see that one.
Oh, okay. He was fantastic. He was really interested.
I found that while it was a bit generic, it was still pleasant to listen to and ask some good questions and let them talk. And that was the one with the boat, the fishing one. I can't remember her name. She's a streamer. She had like, the pink background or whatever, Katie something. But I thought she was easier to watch than the hosts. And that's weird because I actually like Trischenberger or whatever her name is. I actually know who she is. I don't mind that. I don't know what was going on, but goddamn, damn.
Yeah,
You got Twitch streamers in your professional. First of all, you have Twitch streamers in your professional event. That should never. My personal belief is, why did you just do that when they can already do that? Just give them the game. Let them play it on their stream. We've won nothing from having 2 people say some of the worst, most banal fucking stuff. Like, that's interesting. And I'll tell you what else is interesting. There's a boat in this game, and I like ships. And you're like, first of all, boats, ships, not the same fucking thing. Second, we already see that the goddamn thing is there. Why are you telling us like that's interesting?
Yeah.
It was terrible.
It really was bad. It was bad. And it sucks because I think a lot of great games got fucking buried because of it.
They got buried.
The thing. A lot of people are quick to blame Twitch, which I agree. They you could see their hand was in this for sure, but Xbox is equally held accountable because they should have been like, what the fuck are you doing to our program, man? Like this is a 1-hour show, and they're like, this is a 1-hour show. Yeah, his name's Frank. Technique did an awesome job. He interviewed the director. Like, his name is Frank, but his alias is Technique, with a Q, no UE.
Okay.
He interviewed for 12 Minutes, the director of 12 Minutes, Elise, and
I want to play that.
Yeah, that game looks awesome. So there were a lot of cool games, and really only Technique's interview was I thought good, where you saw him want to be there. He was interested. I thought it was pretty good, but otherwise, I mean, it was great to have a Twitch chat there, or I'm sorry, a YouTube chat there, because I like what I would do is mute the fucking interview and just talk with chat the whole time. And then once the trailers came back, popped it back open. And it was actually really good. It was one of my favorite streams in the sense of viewer interaction. It was a lot of fun. But let's talk about some of the games. So there's a list here on the Xbox News Wire. Let's start off with Moonglow Bay, which was announced by Coat Sync Software. This is a fishing RPG set in the 1980s Eastern Canadian coastline. This one looked really cool.
Yeah, this is my jam. And it wasn't going to be until they kept talking about it. Like, the more they talked about it, the more I was like, oh, shit, this is what I want. So, yeah, I'm excited for that.
There was Soup Pot, which is a cooking game with over 100 dishes that you can make. It was interesting. It was by, like, 2 people, I think a little bit more. And they came up with the idea in quarantine and kind of put it together. And I thought that was awesome.
I like the idea of it.
They missed eating out and stuff. Yeah, it didn't light my fire, but it's called Soup Pot. That's console and Steam. Nobody Saves the World. This one was really interesting because it comes from the developers who made Guacamelee. We actually got a specific write-in about it from Parker Lukenbach. Hey, Catherine Maddie and Catherine Carrick. Catherine with a K, by the way. This week, we saw Drinkbox Studios announce Nobody Saves the World alongside Xbox exclusivity. This is important because they were huge in the PlayStation ecosystem with the Vita launch Mutant Blobs Attack. I've actually never played that. And were a part of the Retired Pub Fund initiative with Guacamelee. This is a big deal for me because it ends a decade of PlayStation launch exclusivity for the studio. It shows that Xbox are widening their net for smaller studios and are reinforcing the variety of games available through Game Pass this launch year. Are there any independent studios you'd like to see Xbox draw their sights on next? Thanks for the show. So yeah, I wanted to really specifically highlight this one because when I saw Drinkbox was working with Xbox exclusivity and also that this was day one Game Pass, it's really cool. Like you could be a rat, a ranger, and you can mix and match your abilities, and it's procedurally generated, but it's really, I didn't like Guacamelee that much. Not like it's a bad game, but I didn't really enjoy much of Guacamelee. It just didn't speak to me as deeply. Right. Something just didn't click. Mechanically, it was sound, but this looks very charming. And when I saw, wow, they're doing day one Game Pass. There's another day one Game Pass on here that is really cool as well, but this one's Xbox exclusive. Are there any other independent studios that come to mind for you that you'd love to see Xbox work with? And I really wouldn't blame independent companies if they're paying the bills to say, like, let's do exclusives. But do you see a company that maybe Xbox with their ID at Xbox program could help lift up? Because I have a company in mind. I have a game in mind. I want to know who developed it first, so I'll answer in a sec. But do you have any? At all?
I mean, House Marquee, who's doing Returnal. They've done some great shooters in the past, but they're sort of like, well, they're definitely independent, but I'd like to see them possibly do it. I don't really have any aspirations for exclusivity of an indie on a company platform. So yeah, I would say that's really not usually up my alley too much.
For me, it would be the developer of The Messenger, Sabotage Studio. The Messenger is one of my favorite indie games ever. It's a 2D side-scrolling title that has some inspiration from a little bit of Ninja Gaiden, but it really goes beyond that, where it has 8-bit and 16-bit graphic styles that fit its theme of time traveling, and your as the name would suggest, your goal is to deliver a message as the messenger. And so you get some really cool moves, some tools. The soundtrack is a banger, and the soundtrack even changes when you change time periods. And so sometimes you'll have to do specific moves in time periods as you platform. So you're going 8-bit, 16-bit, 18-bit, 16-bit through these portals. And so there's a lot of mechanics there. I would love to see Xbox team up with them. That game is on Game Pass, by the way. If you've not played The Messenger and you like a good 2D side-scroller, give this one a look. It is awesome. Really good game. And it's hilarious. So I'd like to see them help out Sabotage Studio, because they also are one of the few indie devs I saw that made an awesome game. It did really well, and then they did a summer kind of expansion for the game, and they did it for free. And they did it with without any help. I don't think it was... I'm pretty sure this game was not exclusive to Switch, and if it was, it may have just been originally exclusive. But Yeah, they did an expansion for the game that was free, and so I thought that was pretty commendable. And they definitely had to eat some costs. Like they could have made more, is really what I'm saying, if they just decided not to and charged for it. So I appreciated that. That's who I'd like to personally see. Let's continue a little bit on this list here. We've got Death's Door, which is a game where you play as a crow, and they are reaping the souls of the dead, a little bit thematically on point. This one looked really neat, I thought. There's 12 minutes. And then there was Astria Ascending, which is a JRPG coming to Game Pass day one, which Xbox getting a turn-based JRPG. It says that each character has their own story explored across 5 cities, 25 dungeons, and 30 hours of gameplay, up to 50 for 100% completion. Alongside the finely tuned turn-based combat, players can try out a range of side quests and mini-games, including an original fantasy-themed token game. Pretty fucking sweet, I gotta be honest. I like that they went out and got a JRPG independently for Game Pass. Not exclusively, by the way. It is on PlayStation, but Game Pass day one. Pretty big deal. And Linz is our next write-in. Hey, gents, hope you're having a great day this week. What was Xbox thinking with their showcase? It was nice to see indie games get some love, but to have a 4-hour presentation with 2 presenters that didn't even know the names of the games they were presenting was way too much. I turned the presentation off around 40 minutes in and just caught a few trailers later on. How do you feel about the presentation and what games excited you? Personally, can't wait for The Ascent, baby. Yeah. That's The Ascent is my big indie title. That one I cannot wait for. I will not continue to sound redundant and bring it up, but yeah, that game looks fucking rad. But kind of rolling back a little bit on the games here and talking about the presentation, was it the 2 hosts that were the problem? To me, it was they were fine energy-wise, but they started to sound like saying the same thing. A game would be shown, they go, that was exciting. That was crazy. There was one game, there was 2 games I didn't like. One game that they showed was, I don't know if you saw this because you didn't watch the whole thing. There was a game where it was a guy who swapped bodies with someone in an office space, and he had to go pretend to be someone else at their job. And it was just a 5-minute plus demo of this dude just being really awkward. And it was supposed to be funny, but Carrick, it was one of the most unfunny things ever. I don't know how else to put it. You might as well have attended a fucking funeral. Like, it was just, that was more cheerful and hilarious.
I don't know, funerals would be pretty fucking cool to go to, depending.
Are you serious?
Dude, I went to a wake one time, which was a full-on party, like celebration.
Are you serious? What the fuck?
Yeah, a lot of people get away from the somber part, and they're like, let's celebrate the person's...
I respect that, just I'm surprised to hear it.
Yeah, I don't like funerals anyway. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, at all. Like, I don't... not that anybody does. What I mean is I really dislike them, and I don't want to go normally. But this one was... it was a wake, and it was more like... Who knows where the fuck they are now, but they were awesome, so let's just tell stories. And it was I mean, there were people who were crying because they were crying in laughter, and then you cry a little bit because, like, it was sad. But it was like people telling stories about somebody goofy. But long story short, on that particular game and these other side ones, and the presentation, dude, it was just bad. And I've had my fair share of bad reviews, and we've all had our fair share of bad stuff. So I don't really, other than this last question this person's asking, we should probably, like, personally, I don't think I'll hammer on them too much, because it's just like, it was bad. And at some point we sound like we didn't do it, you know, like they were there. If I may add on,
I wasn't, all I said, I just do think they were caught in a bit of a rhythm there, and I really don't think that was their fault.
I agree with you. I'm not saying you're doing it. I'm just saying if more questions come up about this, we should just circle back and just be like, we've talked about it enough. I mean,
yeah, I will say, I think that it felt like, to me, Twitch and Xbox hung them out to dry a little bit there, because they had a lot to talk about sometimes nothing. And it felt like sometimes.
Yeah,
they
we
just
don't know what's going on the
say
back end,
something.
right?
Yeah, it felt like they said, okay, you'll have 15 minutes to talk about the games. You'll have 15 minutes to talk about the games. And on paper, that sounds fine. We'll show you more trailers. But when when you see like 4 trailers and then like a 15-minute interview, it's really hard to maintain that reaction. And so that's more so what I was getting at, is I feel like the pattern of the show threw them off. Because I saw Brianna, she streamed before, and I saw some of her stuff online. She's pretty funny. And then Trisha, I've seen host before, and she's really good. So that's why I was like, it didn't feel like them.
It didn't, yeah. And, it is on them to make sure they're ready. But I think there's, you hear the word very, very too many times, your brain starts to just tune the fuck out. And I heard the term very, very, it was very, very interesting. That was very, very colorful. That was very, very, and you're like, all right, first of all, go online, look up that, because there's actual websites dedicated to not using very, very and walking you through thousands of ways to get around that. And, maybe they were asked late, that could have been it. Or maybe they, whatever. But I mean, Twitch is difficult, and I think a lot of it relies on Microsoft being stupid in having what can normally happen be their event. There's nothing special about those two talking about games, because they talk about games already. And what I mean by that is, it was just them streaming together for the Xbox event, which seems so odd. Because it's like you could already have them streaming separately or together doing their own event. What's special? What does Xbox bring? And they didn't bring anything for those two, regardless of anything else. They didn't bring anything and say, here's how to be excited. Who knows what cue sheets they got? It just didn't work, man. It just didn't work. And I think, like you said, it was probably a lot of Microsoft's fault. And Twitch, and I don't know, man. Sometimes I just think this, let's be down home is a bad idea. It's a bad idea. You don't have to be organic and be like talking to the streets. We're gonna talk to the streets.
I really think it just
you don't have to.
I just think all they had to do was show a set of trailers, maybe stop for
1
a
hour
point or two. I'm not even kidding. Yeah, and then have a 2-hour post show where they would have thrived. I feel just throwing them in and out of their rhythm wasn't going to work. But anyway, enough of that. I agree. There's no point in talking around it. And certainly, you've had bad reviews. I've had bad reviews. I've had, we've all had our slow days. So even if it falls on them, it's completely normal.
And it's moved on from that point. Xbox will let us down, guys, in the future. So just hope for that.
Plenty of games though that I saw that I really liked, like Narita Boy. I'm looking at Loot River, XO1. Dark Alliance was there. I didn't know that was considered an indie game, but that was pretty cool to see.
I mean, is it though? Like, I saw that too, and I was like, I don't think that's an indie game. But
it definitely didn't look indie to me. Void
Wizards
Train
of the
really
Coast
cool.
is like one of the biggest companies. So
yeah. But yeah, a lot of great looking games. Blaster Master Zero by Indie Crates. That also looked really cool. So a lot of great looking games there. Seriously, if there's a trailer montage, check it out. There are some awesome looking games. But don't miss out. I mean, I would say take the time to look into some of these that we've mentioned, because they will surprise you. Craftopia looked kind of neat. I don't know much about it. Griftlands, yeah, there's really good stuff here.
Griftlands is good.
Yeah, it looked really
I
good.
like that game.
Pretty good showcase in terms of game presentation. All right, let's move on to number 3. Recent actions would suggest that Xbox and Square Enix are developing a solid Game Pass-centric relationship if a day one Outriders release and Octopath Traveler hitting consoles outside of Switch first is anything to go by. It appears there is more on the way. IGN Korea is the one to report. With the release of Octopath Traveler on Game Pass, their official Twitter account said, quote, after Octopath Traveler, 6 or more Square Enix games will be on Xbox Game Pass. It's already confirmed between Microsoft and Square Enix. The official announcement is a matter of time, end quote. Not anything else to go on. This was a number of days ago, so I checked if there was any follow-up reportings, any clarifications that happened, but they just said this. And so this once again comes from IGN Korea. So obviously everyone's heads immediately turned because they went, oh, Final Fantasy VII finally. Yeah, we finally, I said. But we need some Final Fantasy VII Remake on Xbox. That has kind of been the expectation for a lot of people. It shows how much we've been spoiled by Game Pass that, hey, this big JRPG you've been looking forward to, we're going to do a day one Game Pass release. Where I think Square is would be handing out that game more than actually selling it when you think about PS Plus and then this thing. There's a lot of free downloads going on. But what do you make of more Square Enix games hitting Game Pass, and what titles from their library come to mind? Obviously, Avengers, I think, would be another sure shot. We've talked about the free-to-play rumors and if they go that route. But does anything else come to you?
Did you see the Hitman trial thing that just went out yesterday?
Yeah, I saw you tweet about it.
Yeah, so they're
You
giving
posted or
away.
responded.
Yeah, you can play like the first level of Hitman 3, and then I think you get the training level forever. I think with Square, yeah, no, I think there'll be some announcements coming. That's all I'm gonna say. It's the same thing that happened with the other big game. It was like you hear these rumors, and I stuck my head out, and luckily they were right, but you get some heat for it, and it's just like it's at some point. I don't know if Korea is guessing on something that passed through the night recently, or if they are putting two and two together, or what. But I think that people might be misinterpreting, like the Final Fantasy thing. They might be misinterpreting what the plans are between, like, let's say a Microsoft that wants to offer a holistic environment for brand new games and older games versus just older versus just brand new. And then there's some IPs there that they can and can't get because, there's some exclusivity stuff that's going on. So I would just say I think Square and Microsoft are a lot closer than people assume. And by many magnitudes closer than people assume. In some ways, I just wish people wouldn't think that it means that they're buddy and sleeping together. It's almost like you do how many podcasts? You do this one, Ham, sometimes Sacred Symbols.
Fighting Duke Ultimate, yeah.
Fighting Duke Ultimate. But it doesn't mean you won't talk about Nintendo. Because you want to cover all aspects. And I think people jump to these conclusions and are like, 8 or 9 games, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you may be thinking 8 or 9 games day one, which might be a little different than what happens, which is something we've seen with Microsoft. If you guys have watched closely, Microsoft peters stuff out that doesn't make sense sometimes. Like, you'd be like, why is this out and not this? And I think that we will see that with some of these companies as well, Square included.
Yeah, I was definitely wrong about where Square and Microsoft sat for sure. Where I thought they were just really teaming up with PlayStation. I think I just reacted preemptively to some consecutive moves where I would not be surprised.
Where it looked where they were going, though.
Yeah, exactly.
That's where they were going.
Forspoken and new Final Fantasy game and the DLC, and you're like, all right. I mean, I don't blame them. There's a history there. But also there was a history on Xbox 360 specifically, so maybe they're rekindling
360
that.
specifically, yeah.
And so I would love to see some more of that, and I think it's no coincidence, that suddenly with Outriders and Octopath that more may be on the way. And we do know, and I'm just connecting dots here at this point, that there have been statements that both companies are playing really hard with these third-party companies getting exclusive games from them. So Square could also be working on something third-party exclusive for Microsoft. We'll see. Number 4. Fans are hungry for any more information on Halo Infinite, so hopefully this can satiate a little bit. It appears that both a character reveal and release window have slipped through the cracks thanks to actor Verlon Roberts, who recently sat down with the Fathom and Friends podcast. What?
Sorry, I said, what? Whoa, someone's in trouble.
Here's the whoa. I thought I said his name wrong or something. Roberts is reportedly playing as Spartan Griffin in Halo Infinite and said that the game has been pushed back to a November release date. For those who don't know, Spartan Griffin was introduced in the companion novel Shadows of Reach. The character hasn't been officially revealed yet, so that was another thing he let slip. And that information came courtesy of Game Informer, so thank you to them. But not really much to dig through here. The speculation was November because it would match up with the anniversary of Halo 1, Combat Evolved. So I kind of expected this, but he's saying it got pushed back to November, so maybe they anticipated earlier. But I do remember the studio head of 343 teased that there was a certain anniversary happening in November when they announced we're delaying it by a year. So I don't know how current this information he got is, but kind of matches up with what we've been assuming.
Voice actors don't know shit, is what I'll say. And how I can back that up is that, and I don't mean he doesn't know his shit. He only knows what a voice actor would know. So the November thing, the fact that Maddie might know it before him isn't that strange because a voice actor gets paid. You know, they get their contract. The reason why I bring it up is because Hitman. Remember, Hitman was voiced. There was a Hitman that was voiced by somebody who wasn't the normal voice actor, and it turned out so bad they hired the normal voice actor back. And he didn't even know he wasn't in the game. Michael Ironside had the same issue with Splinter Cell once. So I think people put too much emphasis on him stating it got delayed where he could have watched Maddie's podcast and realized it got delayed. I'm not saying he did. I'm just saying that that data, who knows what, is pretty shady. And you'll even hear it with Bailey. Is that her name? She's
Bailey.
a really good voice. Yeah. And isn't she married to
Willingham, I want to say.
the really big, tall voice actor as well, right?
Yeah.
I believe. Yeah. So you'll sometimes hear them talk about a game. They'll be like, well, we did the work here, and then it took this long, for that to come out. Matt Mercer has talked about games taking a long time to come out too. I think with voice actors, they get paid, they go in there, they do their stuff, they hear some stuff through the grapevine, and I don't think this is a surprise, I guess is what I'm saying. I think most every single person knew November is the earliest, by the way, stressing earliest, that game will come.
Mm-hmm. And what's interesting is I think that would conflict with Starfield, where Bethesda Game Studios typically likes to release in November.
And your Starfield.
I'm just putting it out there, man. I'm just putting it out there. People, because I've been saying to people, I was like, 2021, they're going to go for it, but if they can't do it, they are going to delay it. And I know what people are going to say is, you said 2021. It's like, no, motherfucker, I've been saying for a while, they have the chance to delay it, they will. But they're going to try to push 2021.
Well, and they always do if you're told directly to your face by Pete Hines that they're doing November or whatever. That doesn't mean anything. They can still delay it.
Exactly.
So,
right?
like,
so
you reporting, I think that's
a good point.
It happens sometimes.
Otherwise, not much to go on with this one. Just an update for those who are hungry for a little more Halo Infinite information.
Hungry for that Halo.
Indeed. Number 5, you got $500 lying around. Bang and Olufsen. Is that how you pronounce it?
It is.
All right. And Xbox are teaming up for a brand new wireless headset announced this week on a post via the Xbox website. The site writes, it easily connects to Xbox for an instant gaming experience with lossless 2.4 gigahertz wireless connectivity built in, Bluetooth 5.1, and apt XTM adaptive, making gaming on your phone solid and seamless. The Bang & Olufsen app includes original features that allow you to create the ultimate gaming experience, change EQ using gesture controls, enjoy both gaming and music via dual modes, or enjoy a better voice balance when using your mic with your own voice technology. It has a 24-hour battery with active noise cancellation and a virtual boom mic using directional beam forming technology. Aiden Walker is our next write-in. Hi, y'all. Hope you're both having a pretty great day, because at a certain point in time, we need to remember to mix those in with the mediocre ones. I'm writing in to number 1, Plug Narita Boy. It's on Game Pass, and it is vibrant, nostalgic, and has caught my eye immediately. Yeah, do check that out. It looks awesome on Game Pass already. Number 2, on Tuesday at 3 p.m. Central Time on March 30th, Bang and Olufsen are set to reveal details on their collaboration with Xbox on a high-end headset. Now, he updates his comment and says, $500 USD. B&O Bayo Portal headphones. I would love to hear y'all's perspective on this move. I think it's easy to commend Xbox for promoting both an elite, put elite in quotes, and a moderately priced headset in the market, both specifically geared to assuring seamless compatibility with their system. However, Is this new high-end headset ever worth it for the average or even avid console gamer? Perhaps more practically speaking, what truly distinguishes this headset that shares a price point with Microsoft's premium console from the newly released $100 wireless Xbox headset? Presumably a lot, but I am admittedly not super informed on this subject. Do either of you have any prior experience with this brand? I have grown more invested in sound design in gaming, and most recently being blown away by 343's development blog on Halo Infinite's efforts to assure strong audio performance. Sound is never an afterthought in reviews produced by both of you, so I'm keen to hear your takes as more information becomes available. Cheers, Aiden. All right, Carrick, you are definitely more of a sound guy than myself, so I would love to have you lead the charge on this, and especially with the amount of headphones you own. I imagine maybe you've checked out this company's products.
Yeah.
All right, so
they're
let's get into it.
Don't get them. No.
I was gonna say they looked really overpriced, but
dude, they're $500 fucking dollars. Like at that point, there's other things to get. I love the idea of the dual. I think people don't realize how amazing it is to have a pair of headphones like the Xbox wireless that connects to two sources. If you're like me, who's used Discord and then tried to use Discord in the console, and you've got one headset in for each, and you're trying to figure out with a system like that, you can pipe both of them in. It's awesome. So there's a plus there, and that has support for it from what I understand. But they're audiophile headphones for a very particular unaudiophile medium. Because while he's talking about the source medium for like Infinite, if you're, depending on how a person is playing this, like if you plug them into your 360 headset for whatever reason, you're getting Bluetooth audio, which is compressy and sounds like shit. If you're doing the 2.4, that's awesome. It's no lag. It's wireless. It's going to sound great. But I'm not 100% sure why a person who likes audiophile stuff would hook it up to the Xbox. What I mean by that is most people who get to this level have a receiver. So they don't just have the Xbox sitting there. Normally, people who get to this level of spending have a music receiver also sitting there. That music receiver is better paired to other audio devices of a lesser or greater amount of money than $500 just for these that are Xbox branded. You can buy ones that are $200 that I can tell you, Maddie, I could put on your ears and you'd be like, I don't understand why this is $200 while this one's $2,000. So yeah, it's great they're doing it, and they should be, because it's awesome. Microsoft has no issues with Elite, and I think that's cool. But, dude, that's the cost of the system. Like, at that point...
at a point, yeah.
Yeah, at a point, it's more like, look at us, which is fine. There's no issue with the bling, but it's like wearing the gold chain with your own fucking initial on it, man. At some point, people look at it and are like, that's pretty fucking cheesy,
Yeah.
So...
That was my initial impression. Obviously there are certain headsets that are better than others, but when your headset's going for the price of a console, I don't think it's worth it. And I think you could get away with just enjoying the wireless Xbox headset that kind of has feature-wise the same things, and you'll still get a good sound experience there. And a lot of times, right now I have Astro A40.
Those are really good too, and they're a quarter the price or something.
Yeah, they're, at least when I got these, they were about $150, $200, something in that range. Yeah. And that's a pretty good price to pay for a good pair of headphones. They are more gaming oriented with like a mix amp and everything. Like for this, I just have a wire plug straight into my computer. But otherwise, a lot of it does boil down to the meticulous sound design of, in the case of gaming, a lot of the developers, and the little things that they add in, and the directional audio, that type of stuff plays a big factor. So your headphones are very important, of course, but also it does boil down to design, right? You can get the best headphones ever and put on some fucking trash music. It's still going to sound absolutely awful. It's not going to change that experience.
Dude, yeah. So. It's source is so important. Like, even if you get, by the way, Skull Candy, shitty Skull Candy, like $9 from Fred Meyer, they will sound good if they have good source compared to like 128 kilobyte. Where, have you ever played an MP3, Maddie, where you can hear it? You can hear the bits going.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Noise just pouring in.
So your 500 headphones are going to play it that louder. Congratulations. It doesn't make any sense, man. I don't get it.
Yeah, man. I know. So hopefully that helps guide you there, Aiden, and anyone else who's looking at headsets. All right, number 6. This was a last-minute addition to our news write-up. Backwards compatibility reaches the clouds for Xbox Game Pass Ultimate members. This comes from the Xbox Wire once again, where they have added the following backwards compatible titles to cloud streaming through xCloud. Fable 2, Gears of War Judgment, Fallout New Vegas, Perfect Dark Zero, Viva Pinata, Trouble in Paradise, Perfect Dark, Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, Double Dragon Neon, Banjo-Tooie, Gears of War 3, Jetpack Refueled, Gears of War 2, Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind, Cameo, Viva Pinata, and Banjo-Kazooie. All of these backwards compatible titles are now playable with Xbox Cloud Gaming. So you download the Xbox Game Pass app on your Android device, still no Apple, and experience cloud gaming on the Game Pass Ultimate today as we record this. This is on a Wednesday, so it's available to everyone
New Vegas?
New Vegas. New Vegas
on
fucking
a
Oblivion?
Dude.
I know.
I mean, it may not be the best. The thing about Vegas that people forget is you got VATS, so you don't need perfect control, which admittedly streaming can have some issues with motion controls. That game, I would play because it's got VATS. I would play the bejesus out of that game up close. I got to tell you guys, you're missing out. Get a cheap tablet, $90, and stream. Your life will change.
It's the one time I'm sitting here kicking myself for being an Apple guy. I've always proudly been I don't have brand loyalty, but I will be a fucking Apple guy. I have my iPad right in front of me. It's been my workhorse for all of my content.
Right.
I have an Apple phone because I lived through the Android X or whatever they did. That piece of shit was dying constantly. If I could make an inanimate object come to life so I could beat the fuck out of it, it would be that cell phone. 100%. Yeah, I would bring that shit to life and square up because that was terrible. That or the for those of you out there who are old cell phone users, the Crave. You might remember this phone. It has the clear.
I do remember the Crave. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's a flip phone, but the part that flipped up was a clear thing. The laggiest piece of shit I've ever seen. So I would like to take on both of them at once if I could. But anyway, I want to try this so badly. Like, I've thought about buying a tablet for it, but they keep saying, oh, spring, we're doing xCloud on iPhones in spring. And I'm like, we're so close now. I have the tablet here. Because what I think of is when I'm waiting for a video to render, I always have my iPad when I'm working. So the idea that I could kick my feet up, take out a controller, and then stream a game, like that is, oh my, dude, I want this so bad. And especially now they're adding back compat titles. I'm looking, man, like New Vegas. I'm like, oh, are you fucking kidding me?
And it's not
dude?
even that because, like, I don't even use the controller. I use the on-screen for the most part. I would say 80%. And of course, so Skyrim, you would want to use a controller. But even if you take that away and you just have your tablet, dude, people don't get it that the power is not within the tablet required. So you can get some cheap-ass tablets. Mine is a $90 tablet. And I'm running the game at 4K, and I was playing Providence Poker, which most people don't know what that is, but it's it's like a amazing Xbox/PC poker game. And I'm sitting in bed playing the fuck out of that game on my tablet, running at 4K, and then whatever my screen is, downsampled down. And I'm just sitting there, Maddie, going like, dude, and you just go in, just click a button, boom, new game pops up instantly. You can also stream from your consoles. Like, the only problem with iPhone that I understand, and I could be wrong, is that because they can't do app, it's going to be browser based. And if that's true, it will never, ever, ever, /ever, ever, ever be as good as an app version because you'll be going through a browser. That's
why I'm tempted, Carrick. I'm tempted to just get really impulsive and just get a cheap tablet.
Dude, I got a Lenovo. I wish I could show you this Lenovo, man. It's 10-inch, and it was $90 off of like Amazon, man. I'm telling you, dude. Ask your parents for Christmas if you haven't made the jump.
I got the money.
Birthday.
I'm gonna comb the house for I feel like we used to have Verizon tablets. Those are really old though. But
I have a NVIDIA Shield, the original G1. So that thing is like 7 years old, and I just got it up and running yesterday, perfectly fine. So
interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
It's all internet based for the most part, anyway. So.
Yeah, and you just download the app from from Xbox or from Google Play. And then again, Maddie, that means every Steam game, boom, is going to work on there as well.
Son of a bitch.
GeForce, you have an NVIDIA card, right?
Yeah.
All your games will stream. dude, I don't
feel
even
like
know.
you just made a decision for me.
Not only that, Maddie, dude, I forgot to tell you. So we're getting into streaming as I'm getting back into the channel because I've been sort of taking a hiatus for the last 2 months. There's now, have you ever used the Elgato Stream Deck? You ever seen the people with the Stream Deck with the buttons?
Yeah,
yeah. Look at me. Tablets do that now. So you can download apps and they work through Streamlabs, perfectly seamless with animations and everything. So we have a tablet set up with like 40 different like thumbnails, and you click it and like you'll have instant replay. And by the way, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because this can all be done on the same tablets. Like this is all powered through streaming. But you hit a button, it will take the last 10 seconds that you just played, replay it as a replay on your stream, like with like, you know, gossamer clouds and shit, you know, like, or you being like, you know, with like rainbows, whatever you want. A tablet currently for a streamer, dude, it feels like you have to have one. And iPad probably has the thing I'm talking about for the tablet for Stream Deck. But I'm just telling you, man, it'll change your life. It's replaced this. I don't mean to be rude, but it's replaced the Switch because the Switch can't run mods on Skyrim, and I'm running 320 mods. Wabbajack has like a streaming Wabbajack package. Do you know what Wabbajack is?
Yeah.
And I installed it a couple days ago, and I was like, oh, it's everything I've ever wanted. You just lay in bed, never get dressed, never shower. Just bask, awesome.
Bask in your nastiness.
Bask in the nastiness. Sorry to go on. Streaming is awesome though, and people need to embrace that.
I think that's what myself and others needed to hear. I just want to add this in because I noticed it. Viva Pinata, both Viva Pinata games and Jetpack Refueled have touch controls enabled.
Viva Pinata?
Yeah,
dude.
Yeah,
my
you didn't
day,
hear me when I first read it. Yeah, Viva Pinata.
I did not hear
both of them.
Viva Pinata. That dude.
Yeah, Trouble in Paradise and the original.
My wife is gonna shit bricks when I tell her that because she loves streaming games, dude. Viva Pinata is the jam, man. That's a good day.
Yeah, I'm excited to look into that a little bit now. So I'm gonna research some tablets, and I'll probably, just like I did with the wireless headphones for the HyperCloud.
Yeah,
hit
me up on it.
Yeah, what's a good tablet right now for a price? All right, let's get into our Game Pass picks of the week. Carrick, would you like to go first, or shall I?
Yeah, Game Pass for me. Scrolling up, Subnautica. So I did not like this when it first came out. But so that people understand, it's literally 10,000 times the game. It's basically No Man's Sky underwater. And so what it is it's one of those survival games where you're constantly putting stuff together, but you're in a sub on a water world, and then the expansion is a frozen world. The cool thing about the expansion is it doesn't require the main game. And it would be like Shivering Isles? No, Shivering Isles required the full game. I guess most of those have required the full game, but with Subnautica Arctic Frost or whatever it's called, it doesn't. But basically what you do is you start out on basically a spaceship crashes into an ocean world. You have your little baby sub, and you have to dive down, grab coral shit, and do survival stuff. Mix this with that, blah, blah, blah. But you build bases, full-on underwater bases. It is straight up No Man's Sky. It's just underwater. The cool thing about this game is it takes the same mysteries that No Man's Sky handles with space and puts them underwater. So Leviathans, massive underwater creatures, Mariana's Trench kind of shit. So if you're scared, if you have I don't think it's hydrophobia. I think that's just water in general. But if you have a phobia of like going over the abyss, you know, in a sub, and suddenly the ocean floor goes below you, this may not be the game for you, because it does. I've known a couple people who are like, it's too trigger happy for me. It's also VR. So if you want to do VR, yeah.
Why did I feel like Subnautica was a 2D style game?
Ooh.
Am I imagining?
I don't know.
Am I imagining?
Yeah, no. Subnautica is full on shooter style, or not shooter, but first person. Yeah.
Huh? What am I thinking of? Where it's like a base builder,
Subnautica?
2D.
Oh,
I might be
Terraria, or not Subterraria, but there's a game called like Terraria or something like that that is a 2D base builder.
Let me just check. Yeah, let me just check Subnautica, because I may have just completely failed to identify
Maybe you saw a picture of it or something, or maybe somebody put a
Wow,
thumbnail.
this is really cool looking. I had no idea.
Yeah.
No, I think I just saw.
Straight
I think
up
I saw
gorgeous.
a picture. I don't know. I think I just saw like a picture of a game and thought it was Subnautica. I literally just drummed up this idea in my fucking head. That's so scary.
Yeah.
No, this looks totally different from
full VR if you want. It's a lot like Elite where, or No Man's Sky where you can do normal or full VR. Cool. And well worth it for anybody who gets a chance.
My Game Pass pick of the week is Octopath Traveler. I actually had someone tweet me yesterday thanking me for insisting to try Octopath Traveler. And so getting this game in 4K, I mean, it is already a beautiful game on Switch. It's a 16-bit JRPG. You take control of 8 different playable characters, and they all eventually join up. And the way the story is paced out is, you'll have chapter 1 of like Alphen, and you'll have chapter 1 of Ophelia, and you go through each of their individual story arcs. What kind of sucks about the game is that these arcs do not unite for a very long time, but there's a lot of charm in its soundtrack. Its combat is fantastic. There's an armor system, so you have to target their weak points, which the game does not tell you. You have to figure it out yourself. So hitting an enemy with a spear will lower their shield points, and once you have a shield point, once they go to 0, they break, and now they're vulnerable, and so you can really hit them hard. You combine that with what's called the boost system, so each turn you get boost points, and then you can really ramp it up and do 4 boost attacks with your spear, so you'll stab them 4 times, and if they're weak to that, you're going to hit them really hard 4 times in a row and kind of maximize a turn, or you can charge a spell and it'll do something massive. And so there's a lot of power to play with in the game, but the enemies hit just as hard, so there's a good challenge there. But yeah, when you combine the soundtrack, the visuals, which is very much old school, but still very modern feeling, because the water will look real because it was made in Unreal Engine 4, but the 16-bit art is just as classic as you can get, right? It's like, you don't see these very smooth animations. Like when they stab, it's like 1 pullback, 1 thrust, 1 pullback, 1 thrust. Like you don't see the full swinging back and forth, which is good. I feel like it retains that DNA well. So I feel like there's a big void for these types of games nowadays, and I think there will continue to be as more people become obsessed with what they can do with next-gen tech. And I think games like Octopath should be celebrated, especially when they're coming from Square Enix, who has a lot of money to play with at times, I feel. And they're making something cool like this. They're making games like Bravely Default. But even then, Bravely Default's like a 3D game. This is all 2D 16-bit art, and it's fantastic. So, and I appreciate the hell out of this game.
You like this game? I haven't played it. I watched you on stream play it. But I still am confused. So you've played this game, but you haven't played Disgaea.
I have played Disgaea. Yeah, I have played Disgaea.
I apologize. Okay, I've been so confused for the last couple weeks. I wanted to ask you this. I thought you said you hadn't. I apologize. Okay.
I played 10 hours of Disgaea 5, I want to say. Those tactic style games, I shouldn't say that, because when I played this is from the same team that brought us Octopath Traveler, but when I played Project Triangle Strategy, worst name ever. I don't care if it's a placeholder name. Worst name ever. Yeah, they're just going to call it Triangle Strategy, by the way. That's what's going to happen. I hope everyone realizes that.
Or TS.
Octopath Traveler's name was... Dude, when Octopath Traveler was first revealed, they called it Project Octopath. So they might add one word, but it's going to be...
Right.
Yeah. It's literally going to be called Triangle Strategy.
They're not working too hard in the naming area over there.
No, they're just like, let's make something cool. But when I played Project Triangle Strategy, that was the same type of game as Disgaea. And I originally was like, I just don't like Disgaea's gameplay style. I just don't think I liked 2 things. I don't think Disgaea clicked with me with its universe and its characters.
Gotcha.
And I also think, like, for example, the stacking of like the little penguin things and being able to stack and then do attack.
Being able to stack and attack.
I don't know.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know why that didn't work for me, but it just didn't. I felt like with turn-based and the waiting turns to get everyone near each other and waiting turns to stack them, it felt too long-winded for a turn-based game. But once again, I only got 10 hours in. I'm open-minded to it. I'm curious about Disgaea 6. But yeah, when I played Disgaea 5, it didn't click with me. So I think I'm open to these tactics games more than I realized. Just Disgaea didn't click. But yeah, Octopath Traveler, that's my Game Pass pick of the week. Really quick download too, like 4 gigabytes. So you can really give that a shot in a night and see if you like it. I think there's a really good charm to it. There's also, I forgot to mention, the skill system. So every different character in your party can interact with the world differently. You can steal from someone, you can intimidate them and get them to fight you, and you can use these to solve all kinds of quests. So there's a little bit of complexity there. Sometimes it's vague, and I don't like that, but there are moments of interaction that I thought were cool. And you can stack up on items just by stealing from everyone. And there's not like a karma system or anything like that, but it's really cool. Next up, back compat picks of the week. Carrick, I'm very curious about yours. Tell me about it.
Toy Stories. Or Toy Soldiers, Cold War. So
I wish it was Toy Story.
Yeah. I'm a big Skylanders fan. I like toys. So I realized when I was looking this morning, I was like, holy shit, Toy Soldiers is on here. So Toy Soldiers is basically a game. It's a resource type of game where you play as a kid, but it never shows you the kid. You basically zoom down to super low level, and you sort of have enemies coming towards you, and you have to put your army men down to defeat these incoming waves. And they go for, I can't remember how many waves, and then it's like that wave's done, you go to the next level. But what's cool about it is all toy soldiers. So it's like you put down plastic tanks, all this stuff, and then they come out and they fly around. But you can also, especially in Cold War, I believe, lock into the view. So it's a little bit more cinematic than the original. They're so cheap. They're dog-ass cheap on PC. But I didn't realize this was on, it's also on console. Obviously, I knew that, but I didn't realize it was in the Game Pass. And I just like these games, man, because when I was a kid, I was that kid. I was that kid that got like, Darth Vader and a G.I. Joe guy, and I was like, you somehow came into the same universe, and now you're best friends. Go battle, and I was that kid. And so to me, Toy Soldiers, it's awesome because you can take over the stuff. So not only can it fire on its own and shit, but like you can jump into a cannon and fire the cannon at the enemies by aiming. So you can sort of do, I don't know what that would be called, like real-time strategy as well as like first person aiming. So you can like jump in and out. You can let it do its thing, or you can do its thing for it, which and it's always too busy for you to do all the things. But dude, there's airplanes, blimps. It's against the Cold War's against the Russians, and then I think the original was against Hitler and the Nazis.
It's something with this type of game that's always been awesome. So I remember when I discovered Army Men Sarge as Heroes on like the Nintendo 64. That game was fucking awesome. And there was a game that was clearly inspired by it. I had to look it up. It's called the Mean Green's Plastic Warfare. And it's a third-person shooter where you can fight online against other people. And it's same thing. It's pretty much Sarge's Heroes if it controlled better. And so it's a third-person shooter, and like you'll run around a kitchen as a map, and there'll be like an island in the middle.
I love
sort of
that stuff.
Yeah, there's something about it where they take I'm looking at this picture now, they take a literal standard kitchen and make it into a complex map. There's cities that you can fight in, but they're like those tabletop cities, where people are like doing D&D and stuff.
D&D and miniatures and stuff. Yeah. Those, and awesome. To me, it's that feeling of nostalgia and being a kid, but also they don't really hinder your strategy. You have to actually strategize pretty well, because in between levels you buy upgrades for like better army men and stuff. So yeah, definitely worth people checking out if you like that kind of thing.
Agreed. My backwards compatible pick of the week is Rage 1. This is actually not on Game Pass, but Rage 1, I remember I rented this game from Blockbuster, and I gotta say, I remember being totally caught off guard by it. I was coming hot off the heels of Fallout, and I thought nothing would click, and this one did. So it was a time where id Tech was really just experimenting with what their technology could do. A lot of people called it tech demo of the game because it was very much at its time, and it still is a good-looking game. But there wasn't this, to a lot of people, and I would disagree, a lot of complexity in its gameplay. It was pretty by the books, post-apocalyptic. You have your guns, you have your gadgets. So you have like an RC car that can explode. You have a boomerang style weapon that you can throw, decapitate an enemy, and if it does decapitate, it'll come back to you. If it doesn't, it'll get stuck in them. But where they played around with the tech is, this was one of the first games that if an enemy was running at you on all fours and you shot him in the shoulder, they would sort of fall over based on the momentum and realistically react to where your shot's placed. So when you play it now, you won't be that impressed by it, because a lot of enemies in Outriders we were playing, and you shoot a guy in the head and hold his head. But this was one of the first times we saw this in a game. So there was this level of grittiness almost, and crunch to the game, where you felt your shots because the sound design was really good. So not too long of a game, about 12 hours or so. But it's one that I love, man. It's got racing in it. It's got car combat. It's a little more linear than I would like. But there is some awesome weapons, some awesome gadgets, some really cool segments in the game, and it ends on one of the biggest fucking cliffhangers, which is one of the things that people complained about with this game. But guess what? You like this. Rage 2 is there, and I think Rage 2 is better than Rage 1. But I wanted to put Rage 1 out there because do you have to play it to enjoy and understand Rage 2? Absolutely not. But Rage 1... I think Rage 2 was really cool for me because I played Rage 1 a lot. I replayed that game at least 3 different times. And so seeing Wellspring, one of the main starting towns, be completely different when you get there in Rage 2 was awesome. And I really thought that was a neat development for people who like stuck with this game and believed in it. But for those who haven't, going into Rage 1 and then Rage 2, I still think you'll have that moment just to a lesser extent. But even if Rage 1 on its own, I still think is a very competent game. And if you got a post-apocalyptic itch that needs to be scratched with something more along the lines of Mad Max and instead of Fallout, this would sort of be it.
One of the better shooters at that time.
Yeah, it plays really well.
Yeah.
Good game for achievements and trophies for those of you out there who are doing achievement and trophy hunting. All right. PC deals of the week, and then we'll get into 5 ending questions for the show. Number 1, over on GOG, you can get 13 for free, 100% off. Get it completely for free. This is not the remake of 13, which was apparently awful. I never played it.
Yeah.
But I've seen the stuff, and yeah, it looks fucking terrible. This is the original game, which people really liked. So it's a cel-shaded first-person shooter that looks awesome.
One of
so
the
you
best
can get that
ever made.
for free. There you go. 100% for free. So why not go pick that up? On Humble Bundle, this is a little more of a niche pick, but as I've studied this game, because my buddy picked it up and I'm looking to pick up a copy, it's very hard to find. So this is actually a pretty considerably good deal for this series. The Atelier Ryza franchise is on sale once again at Humble Bundle. So you can get the first one for $35, 50% off, and you can get the second one for $55. That may not sound like the best deal. It's 20% off. But these games go for a fucking lot of money. An average box copy is about $80 to $100. So if you want to get the PC version, this is actually a pretty good deal by Koei, who typically does not scale down the prices on these games. So if you're looking for a Alchemist style JRPG beat 'em up, turn-based game, Altair Ryza might be up your alley. Very niche though, but I wanted to put it out there for those of you who maybe have been itching to try it. Fanatical has a good deal for a game that Carrick just reviewed, so go check out his channel. Evil Genius 2 World Domination is 23% off with Reddit exclusive coupon 23 off Evil Genius 2 for $30.64. You can get it. It's out now, and the deluxe edition goes for $45. So once again, this is a Fanatical, so check out Carrick's review. If you like this game, then you may end up actually being able to get a really good deal on it. 23% off. Pretty rare for a game at launch. Did you end up recommending that, by the way?
No, that's why it's on sale.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Why didn't I think of that? That's so stupid of me.
No, it's no, because we've said that before, and it hasn't always been true. But dude, it's pretty rough. I mean, it's getting 70s, and I think that's
okay. That's
fair.
Not too bad. That's not too bad.
No, but it is a game about like being an evil genius, and I think that usually gets a couple points all by itself, and it didn't even get that. Like, to me, I would say if this was any other genre or whatever, and the same delivery was given to us, we're talking 60s and 65. It was pretty rough. And you're talking to a fan of Evil Genius, and who knew that it may not hit, but boy, in some ways it really did. But I think dude, $30, that's a way different situation than 60 or whatever. Like, then you're starting to get into a completely different discussion where it's like, if you know it's 30, you know what to expect. That's a lot different than 60 going in for the full price.
Number 4, final mention on our list here for deals of the week over on PC. There's a pre-built CyberPower PC. It's a budget one, by the way. So these are not specs that are going to knock your socks off, but wanted to throw it out there for those of you who maybe want to get started with a rig and then upgrade from there. It's an i5 inside there, 16 gigabytes of RAM. RTX 3060 Ti and 500 gigabyte SSD for $1,295. Use the code No Rush over at CyberPower. Once again, not the beefiest PC by any means. The graphics card is probably the most impressive part of it all, but a good starting point where you can upgrade that processor when prices get a little better.
One thing out too about this. So this will be I think we're at almost the 400th CyberPower PC that I know of that our Discord has got. I gotta say, for a company that does pre-builts, they're pretty damn good. Now, you'll always have RMAs if you build your own. Yeah, it happens, and it'll happen with them, I'm sure. But I gotta say, dude, I'm running one right now. And the deals sometimes are... Takedown, who was on your podcast, like, we still don't know how we got the deal we got. We got it, and we were like, okay, let's run, because they may figure out that we just stole our video card, basically, for the cost. So... just a heads up to people.
Yeah, CyberPower, I think, is I've built 2 PCs with them, and they've come pretty reliably intact. And,
it's been interesting to see.
They were definitely ones like my first CyberPower PC was 2015, I want to say. So yeah, I've been using them for a while now, so I recommend them. Jeff Caceres has a quick question for you, Carrick, and then we'll get into our final questions for the show. Figured it would fit here best. Hello, M&K. This is more of a Carrick question. Is the Samsung TV that Microsoft partnered up with a good next-gen TV? I know Carrick has said wait for some TVs that are coming our way, and honestly, just waiting for him to start giving recommendations before I make a purchase. Let us know, Carrick, the TV god. I have a 240 hertz monitor, but the PS5 doesn't work on it for some reason. Series S does take advantage of it, and I want both consoles to run at 120 FPS whenever possible. Love y'all. Keep it up.
Real quick, without looking back on that, I think it was a pretty good TV, but I don't think it's out for a while. And I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure we're still sitting on that one. Yeah, so I would want to get that thing in some homes before I would feel comfortable, like saying a TV's good.
Go get that PC we've never seen.
Yeah, dude, I've seen some shit TVs where all their specs look good, and you get them home, and like uniformity on a screen is really bad or something. So, but I think so. I think I'll just say it. I believe so. We'll have to
I'd imagine if they're directly partnering, it's going to be kind of like the H9 or X900 I got, where pretty gaming oriented because it was designed to be a PlayStation 5 ready TV.
Yeah.
The only thing is they dropped the ball on one update, which kind of pissed me off. But outside of that, it's a good TV, and for the price I paid for it, it's a good middle option.
Yeah. And Samsung probably won't be a good price. Just a warning to everybody. I like Samsung at times, but their prices are not always in. You're like, what is that gold? Why is that so expensive? So just a heads up.
Yeah. All right, let's move into our 5 final questions of the show, starting off with Aaron Turl. Hey, DD boys, I have a concern. My favorite fighting game from last gen was Killer Instinct, and I'm worried about the future of the franchise. It seems like there is no good options when it comes to studios to continue the franchise. Double Helix and Iron Galaxy are off the table now, and there are no quality fighting studios out there who are not already committed to other projects. Do you guys have any idea of who or how the franchise could continue? The best I could come up with was Main 6, who somehow made a My Little Pony game into an amazing fighter. Perhaps a Japanese fighting studio, or creating their own studio to handle fighting games. I just want more combo-y goodness. Have a blah day, Adam.
Nope.
Yeah, I was going to say it.
On that one.
Dude, fighting games, I don't want to say they're a dying breed, but they're like not as popular as they used to be. And this comes from someone, by the way, I love fighting games. I've put almost like
me too
300 hours into Dragon Ball FighterZ. I play pretty much every new fighter that comes out. Guilty Gear, I'm really looking forward to. I played Blaze Blue Cross Tag Battle. I played, what was the game I'm thinking of right now? Grand Blue Fantasy Versus I played last year. That was like the only new fighter that came out. Look at the Game Awards list, by the way, if you don't believe me. Look at the Game Awards list for top fighters they gave out. They had Grand Blue Fantasy Versus. They had like Mortal Kombat 11. Everything below Grand Blue was a re-release of some form. I mean, Dead or Alive 6 is another great one. I thought it played well, but the microtransactions were pretty gross.
Yeah, that game, we just talked about that today in the Discord. Game's great, but those
I love how it plays, dude. Dude, Dead or Alive, if you haven't played it, Adam, some of the best impact for your punch that you can find in a fighting game. You will hit someone with a chest punch and blast them across the stage, and it feels like it made sense. I don't know how they do it.
They fucked that game up. And maybe that's why we're seeing it, Maddie. Maybe it's the DLC packages and the consistent way these games are being released that is bothering people. I don't know. I mean,
I don't think fighting games are with the times where you see a lot of games doing really good numbers and free updates. Fighting games are still nickel and diming you for maps and player characters. And unless you're a Smash Ultimate where you're getting these crossovers where people feel like they've got to pay for it, I think people are not interested because what happens is I understand a fighting character, you have to be very meticulous in that design. I know it takes a lot longer than people understand because for them, they just see a character with animations and frame data and they don't really get all of that. But even stages, that's one thing I will tip my cap to Smash with is when you get a character, you don't just get the character, you get the character, the stage, the music, get some sprites with them that you can collect in the adventure mode or spirits, not sprites. And I just think otherwise fighting games have sort of fallen to the wayside, not because people don't like them, but because the way they are monetized is fucking abysmal.
Yeah.
And
it's terrible.
You can't put in one of the most competitive genres, you cannot put pay to win stuff in there. It will sink your game, but you need to make money somehow. So that's where you see Dead or Alive 6 come in and say, we're going to charge you for every fucking thing.
Or Injustice or Mortal Kombat, which add in these huge procedural things that allow people to ignore the DLC cost. You know, I think with Injustice 2, I'm not going to lie, there was in micros in there, Mortal Kombat had a fucking casino in its crypt. Like, damn, that's audacious. But they offered, the crypt offered the towers, or I'm sorry, Mortal Kombat offered the towers, Injustice offered dimensions. If you don't do that, man, it's rough. What do you do with Killer Instinct? You've only got like 12 characters and some maps. They need to figure out other things to do. And boy, the arcade mode shit's killing me. You can't just be like arcade mode, multiplayer mode now anymore. If you're unless it's a Smash, you might be able to. But in a normal fighting game, you need more. You need some.
That is why, to expand this a little bit more, you're seeing Arc systems dominate the fighting scene right now because they, like, for example, Grand Blue Fantasy Versus has a mode called RPG mode, and there's leveling up, there's progression, it's an adventure mode. You don't just fight your character roster over and over. You fight mob enemies. There are moments in the story. And they did that even with what was it called? Grand Blue or Blaze Blue Central Fiction. They did that there where they had an RPG mode, they had like a grimoire mode. They have fighting games are really about modes. You can't just get lazy with them. My favorite fighting games are ones with great modes. Of course, there's the competitive aspect that I care about, but Smash works because there's a lot of modes. I thought that Fantasy Versus worked because there were a lot of modes. Honestly, what killed me for Dead or Alive 6 was there wasn't, like, I couldn't invite my friend to a private lobby.
Absolutely. It was difficult to actually get it to play normally, let alone, like, other stuff. Did you feel that way for the Fighters Z? Fighters,
Dragon Ball Fighters, I have to admit, I have a little bit of bias on. The reason I say that is because I'm a huge Dragon Ball fan, and that game is all the fan service I could have ever asked for. So I did sink a lot of hours in that game. I played 150 hours in that game before I played the story. So
Tekken 7 also had a bunch.
Tekken 7 was phenomenal. I played
that a lot.
a lot. Love Tekken 7. Did not stick around for its DLC though. I don't know. And that's where I think that's where the fan service kicks in a little bit. I've bought all Dragon Ball Fighters DLC, even when I'm not playing it. I'm like, yep,
gotcha.
Here's $5 because
still getting it, still rewarding them.
Absolutely, because I think I thought that game was going to be gone in a year, and the fact that they're still supporting it 3 years later, I mean, I got to tip my cap and be like, hey, here, you deserve it. And I still play the game from time to time. But the other thing with fighting game is it's very tough it's not as pick up and play as a first person shooter. So you can't just leave it for a year. If you come back online a year later, there will always be those growing pains, but you will get your fucking ass beat by someone who's been playing for that whole year. And it's a terrible feeling.
It's horrid. It's horrid. Nothing's more like personal than trying to fight in a fighting game that you were good at and you're not as much anymore.
Yeah, but fighters could use some more modes. They've tried. For some reason, that game, Dragon Ball has tournaments, and some of the best Dragon Ball games are about the tournament system, like Budokai Tenkaichi. And that game has an awful tournament system, and it never made sense to me.
Yeah, it doesn't even actually feel good. I don't know if that's because they don't know how to translate it, but if you look at Killer Instinct, the same thing happens there. Like, I think also they took Killer Instinct and they were like, hey, everything needs to be competitive. Most fighter games are like that. Sometimes I don't care if they are going to do good on ESO or whatever that fighting game the fighting game tournament is.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes I'm like, I just want a werewolf to punch a skeleton in the balls. Like, that's all I want. I don't need it to be perfect. And in fact, I mean, I don't know, maybe you know this. I just don't feel Smash is probably perfect. It feels to me like it's still doing well. People still play fucking insanely competitively, but I'm sure there's got to be, with that much stuff going on, it feels like there's got to be some character that is just terrible or some character that is just amazing. I could be wrong. I just feel like I wish the companies would ignore it a little bit and say, we're just going to make a good fighting game that isn't held to the structure and requirements of as a competitive fighting game. Maybe it'll become competitive on its own. But
yeah, I think it would always end up becoming competitive on its own just because of the nature of fighting games. I just feel like Smash does the best job of showing your game can be fun and competitive. Like, you can hand it to a kid and they can pick it up and beat some ass and have some fun. And you can hand it to someone like me and play online with their friends and get a little more technical with it. And then you can hand it to a pro and they will, dissect the game. I don't know how many people agree with it, but I thought it was the best Smash since Melee, which was like, that's still played in tournaments.
Most people do. That's what I hear.
Yeah. So next up is Nigel J. I think, Carrick, we're going to ignore this one, but we'll read it just for acknowledgement. Greetings and a moderate mediocrity to you. Loving the show and especially enjoying the Ultimate episodes. Maddie, you seem to be really hitting your stride and enjoying yourself, so keep it up. I like how he says something so nice, and I'm like, we're going to ignore you. Warning, many words ahead. The Medium is a great game. Yes, you finally gotten one from one of these strange people. It is flawed. Or I'm sorry, is it flawed? Yes. Janky? Yes. But I think people like myself found it compelling enough to rate it highly, despite its problems. The fixed views made for awkward control moments, but provided a very specific perspective and tone. Although it could definitely be executed differently, I ended up respecting the choice. Sometimes I thought it felt atmospheric and reminiscent of old school horror games like Silent Hill, and at other times I got vibes of, wait for this one, Carrick, Oxenfree, and other more adventure/storytelling focused games. I think we're at a point that while gameplay is important, some games can be more than their gameplay. In the same way... Sorry, just Carrick's like movement in his chair is cracking me up.
Oh my God, it's killing me.
In the same way that they can also be more than their story. There was also something about the experimental approach which really ended up appealing to me. I get that. I can respect that. I'll admit that I wasn't sure about the Medium at first, and I know it could definitely be improved upon, but I'm thrilled that it exists and has stayed with me far more than many supposedly top-tier games of recent memory. Definitely looking forward to what Bloober does next. Anyway, hope this helps. Feel free to ignore/edit/kill this message with fire as you see it. Henjay and Jolly, Old England. Nigel, I thank you for writing in, but you hurt my friend.
No. That's my answer. No. I'm just, whatever. I do think he said something that we'll talk about in another podcast, but he said that it stuck with him longer. And I was like, is it possible that the fact that you do almost nothing in that fucking game is why it stuck with him? And I said the nothing as a joke, but I am wondering, maybe those atmospheric parts sunk in because he wasn't consistently required to do a bunch of shit. And we've talked about this with online shooters and whatever, when you're getting your butt kicked so much you can't learn at first. You can't, because the human brain needs a moment to take. So I get what I get what he's saying. Fuck you for putting Oxenfree in there, though. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
Right? That's a shot at me, by the way. That was bold, straight up shot at me. Like, I take it personally.
Dude, I always remember you hopped on the podcast, and for probably a good half a year, you brought up Oxenfree at every turn.
Every podcast.
and not complaining, but that's what you did. So for him to throw Oxenfree in there, that's some balls.
No, I'm just saying he's thin ice is where that guy is right now.
Nigel, watch out your next write-in. Write something complimentary to Carrick. Furry Purple Haze is next. Salutations, gents. The past few years, I've found myself being less and less immersed in video games. I used to be a trophy hunter. Now I can barely finish a whole game before moving on, especially with Game Pass. My question for you guys is, are there anything you do to help your immersion in games? I know Carrick loves D&D, so would fleshing my character out in RPGs possibly help me? If so, what do you suggest I do? Help me. Also, is there any chance of a 2021 ESO review from either of you? Yes, there will be one for me. Love every episode of Defining Duke and Ham podcast shows, as well as your 2 personal channels I support daily. I hope you have an absolute apocalyptic shit show of a day. Thank you.
All right. That's a good day right there. I appreciate somebody mentioning our separate podcasts occasionally too. This is like we don't just cover Xbox. I want somebody to at least know that we cover other things at times.
It's because I mentioned it earlier. That's our problem. We talk about it too late. It's 2 hours, 40 minutes in now. We've mentioned it too late.
It's true. That's why the hashtag gets 3 people. But if we had done the hashtag in the first hour, like you would get 10 times as many.
Hundreds.
I use a thing called Bad Tidings. So it's a website. There's a website and there's a form you can get called Bad Tidings, which basically allows you to add in traits, emotions, stories, and thought processes to any RPG at all, and add it on top. So let's say you're playing Dragon's Dogma and you're like, I'm bored of playing the Templar the same way. What you could do is play Dragon's Dogma and then you roll a dice or you pick, and it might say you hate, you chafe at metal armor or whatever. So you're just in your brain, you're like, I'm going to artificially restrict myself to leather armor. In Mass Effect, I was a racist who hated Garrus. I hated Garrus, and I only liked handguns because they reminded me of my dad, who used to be like a Western Star, something like that. Like, that's what I rolled up. And so what I did was I played Mass Effect like that. And what's cool is it causes you to change even the answers. They still have the answers in Mass Effect. You have to pick one of the 3 or one of the 5. But what's funny is if you buy into that shit, dude, that's how I played Mass Effect 70 fucking times. Was because I was always using those things. I was always like, okay, this time I'm gonna, and you hold to it. You hold to it. But for him saying he doesn't know if he'll finish them, I don't know about you, Maddie, but it's like, I think that's just a sign of a person's gaming time. Like, next year, he may be finishing everything. I don't know if there's a specific thing that's gonna help.
Yeah, it's a seasonal thing. There are times where I'm just gaming, and then there are times where I'm really going in and playing everything. Right now, I'm in a time where I've just been playing a lot of shit, but there have been times where I sit down, I come home from working, and I'm just like, all right, I think I'll read a book instead. And
yeah.
Sometimes it's not about. It sounds like you really want to, get back to how you loved games. And it sounds like it's been a progressional thing over a couple of years. So the desire being there is a good sign. For me in particular, it takes a right game to light my fire. My passion was kind of running out, and while I still think Fallout 4 gets a lot more shit than it deserves, that was a game that kind of re-sparked a lot of my enjoyment of games, right? Like everything I was playing in 2015 outside of Bloodborne and The Witcher 3, Rocket League was also really cool. It didn't light me up. And then I played Fallout 4 and between that and Bloodborne, by the way, on 2 opposite ends of the year. And then The Witcher 3 in the middle, which I actually played, got to Novigrad, dropped, and then picked it up and finished. But Novigrad I still stand by it, awful. There wasn't much, but it does take that particular game. For me, Persona really lit my fire. And then Final Fantasy IX with its story and themes, I was like, that was powerful. That was an experience. So sometimes it also takes, I think, the right experience, the right game. And I would recommend maybe looking at some older titles, right? You're saying the past few years I've been less and less immersed. You can drop the trophy hunting bullshit, by the way. I used to be a big trophy hunter, and now treat it like a labor of love. Reorganize your goals. Like, if you really like a game, you can connect with it more and be like, I liked it so much I actually got all the trophies. Not I used to get the trophies for all the games, right? You're going to get busy. Your duties are going to log up, and I feel like trophy and achievement hunting is fun, but as you get more responsibilities, it's not going to be as feasible. Like, that's what ends up happening. Or you'll stick with one game longer than maybe you wanted to, or suffer through one part of a game more than you would have had to. Because there are some really grindy trophies out there that, you're going to want. So I'd just say try something a bit older. I've found myself grounding in some of these older titles. And maybe that's what you need is instead of looking at the new, take a look at a 360 game. And connect with something that maybe makes you nostalgic. I didn't think I'd like Final Fantasy IX that much. I was like, it's gonna feel really old. I fucking loved it. If I could throw that on a Game of the Year list, I'd consider it, but I can't. that's how good it was. But just something that I'd toss out there.
It's funny because two of the games you dislike are two of the games that got me back into gaming, which is Primal and Mad Max.
I don't know why. I mean,
yeah, they're opposite ends too.
Taste,
fucking
right?
Post-apocalyptic and as early as humanly possible in the timeline.
The start of mankind.
Yeah, the start of mankind and the end of mankind. But I maybe it's because they were narratively that. Maybe they were because they both are pretty fresh. I mean, I love Fallout 4 and it's post-apocalyptic. I think I have a soft spot. But yeah,
I find it hard not to. Fallout 4, for all its flaws, developed its characters pretty well. And
I like that game. I don't care what anybody.
You could say that for the companions in New Vegas, but I mean, I just feel like Fallout 4 humanized their characters the best, and I like the older Fallout games are really like fourth wall breaking, which I liked, but that felt the most grounded in a lot of ways, and so it has a lot of memes attached to it. But
I like the locations, Maddie. Like we could talk about Fallout 4 for a long time when it comes to just the towns and how the. Like, I can't remember. So you come out of the red rocket and then you go down into Independence. Is it Independence? Where the jackass who sends you on all the jobs is?
Oh, Concord.
Concord. It's like you go down. There's something about the verticality. I love games where you drop into something. I've always been like a fan of that. But I just think Fallout 4 just has way more than people. I just feel like now there's like this ingrown hate, where it's like people can't even get over it. And it's like, dude, I get, or the speaking narrator, which by the way, mods can remove now. Like,
mods can silence your character.
Fucking silence the character. But yeah, man, I think that game and the world is really fun. Even, dude, this is so weird that I'm this excited about it, but crossing the little creek out of your first town that you can build, build.
Yeah. I don't know why I'm forgetting the name.
Is that Independence? I keep thinking
Independence.
It's
oh my
Freedom.
God. No, you're talking about the little neighborhood that you're in.
It's basically a crescent moon neighborhood.
I know.
And
yeah. Why can't I remember this? This is bugging me.
Isn't that weird? Sanctuary. Freedom, whatever. I was close. But you come out of there. There's the bridge and there's water. And I remember fighting one of the dogs. I can't remember, the rad dogs or whatever. But and that might be a mod. But I came in and it's just all looks so like beat up and stuff. But you hear the water and there was something that I remember for weeks afterwards, just being like, man, that was actually a really cool. They did a good job making everything feel like it went to something else versus here's just a spot.
Right.
And maybe the Red Rocket, maybe the gas station might be a bad example of that. But overall, man, that game is way better than people give it credit. That's my spiel.
Agreed. All right. Number 4 to wrap things up. Matthew David. Hey guys, hope you're having a wonderful week, except for today, of course. The Indiana Jones announcement and these Microsoft Lucasfilm rumors got me thinking. I don't know what rumors you're referring to, by the way.
I don't know.
If you had your pick, what pre-existing IPs would you like to see get made into a game? Personally, I'd love for my 2 favorite audiobook series to get a game adaptation: B.O.B.verse and Expeditionary Force.
Oh, Bobverse. Bobverse. Yeah, that's awesome.
There's an I there. Sorry if I said that wrong.
Yeah, no, that's all right.
There are probably some more lucrative choices, but a guy can dream. I'm curious about your picks. No limitations here. Movies, TV shows, books, comics, all fair game. And thanks, and I'm looking forward to another great week of content. Thank you, Matthew. God, I can't fucking talk on these episodes. I'm fine on my own show. Must be nervous deep down.
Oh, that's what it is. That's what it is.
What kind of comics, books, shows? I mean, you have a wider net to cast. For me, I think of The Last Ronin. It's a Ninja Turtle comic where only one Ninja Turtle is alive and he's hunting down the killers of them. And I think that would make for a fucking rad single player game if you were just hunting down the murderers of the rest of the Ninja Turtles. I won't spoil who The Last Ronin is, by the way, but all I'm going to say is that would be incredible. As you can tell, I have a real hard on for getting a fucking new Ninja Turtle game that's not like a 2D beating them up. Like, I like what they're doing, by the way, the new one they got announced, but like not a 2D beat them up and a lot more gritty like the comics. As you can tell, I'm very much into that idea. But that's definitely the one I'm very passionate about. What about you?
I mean, the normal ones everybody expect. There is a series I read called Hard Magic, which is basically low-level superhero. I guess you'd call it low-level superheroes / magic. And it's like a detective noir time frame, LA noir, but if magic was real, or magic and superpowers to an extent were real. I like that. I think that'd be, hyper interesting. But I mean, I'm okay with pretty much anything once I see it. Like, I don't really have a particular IP. I mean, Indiana Jones is great. I don't know about you. I don't watch a lot of TV that isn't. Most of the TV I do watch currently is related to something already. Like, I'm watching the new not Agents Shield. What's the one? Captain America or Captain Fantastic?
Oh, the Winter Soldier, Falcon,
metal dude.
and Winter Soldier, or something like that.
Yeah, so that's already, Avengers.
Attached.
So
yeah, I get that. I want to check out the Invincibles on Amazon Prime. I've heard some really good things about that. Kind of another dark superhero take, similar
the cartoon
to The Boys.
One.
Yeah. I've heard some good things, so I want to check that one out. Andy Capt is our last write-in. Hello, good sirs. Will we see an Xbox Series XX console this generation? Previously, we had the One X and the PS4 Pro. Just curious. Do you think we're going to see a half step this gen, like we tend to?
I mean, I don't see any. It won't be the way, because those were unbalanced. They had issues with their GPU and their CPU, and I just don't see either one of these having that. So if for me, I would say smaller and possibly huge hard drives. Right, like something like to that effect. But if he means like CPU and GPU, dude, those things are monsters. For consoles, for a console, those things are straight up monsters. So I'm not quite sure either company is really looking forward to. I mean, on the other hand, Microsoft sometimes does some weird shit. But yeah, I don't see it. But
yeah, I think what you're going to see is, the way I define it is...
Slims?
No, I would love to see a PS5 Slim specifically. I'm just going to say that much.
PS5 good looking is what we'd call it? Yeah. I'm just joking.
Yeah, just a really compact fucking thing that doesn't look like an abomination on the top of my dresser.
It's so fucking horrible.
And that's not to say the Series X looks incredible, but just at least it's a small little box that just sits there. It doesn't take up the entirety of my dresser. What I was more so thinking is, with the upgrades, I think that may be implemented through AI. I think we're getting to that point, and I'm wondering with the upscaling that can be provided, through frame rate and, or rather improving your frame rate, improving how the game looks, and that being applied to backwards compatibility. We're already seeing some tweaking on the tech end with FPS boost. That's not being done in an official manner. So I think you're going to continue to see that being pushed in where maybe your Series X gets a upgrade of some kind. I feel like maybe you'll see the Series S, because I always have questions about its lifespan.
Longevity.
I do wonder sometimes if that will need an upgrade of some kind, or if that will just be, the upgrade I'm talking about will be specifically for that console. We'll have to wait and see on that approach. But for now, I don't think they're going to do a new piece of hardware so soon after, especially when they're still getting them out the door. I think normally, I'd say, you can expect it in about 2.5 years. I think
that
this will be
true.
Like a longer
hardware-wise, they're screwed right now, just like AMD
like they're already
and NVIDIA
behind.
are. Yeah, that's absolutely true. Yeah.
So unless it's like a cheaper or a new value package, then people would really hop on it. But otherwise, if you're going to ask for more for something more powerful or the same price, it wouldn't make sense. So I think they're in a weird spot because of the delayed in releases. But right now, I would say don't expect much unless it's like an update virtually. All right, that's our longest show yet, Carrick. It's been a good one. Did not expect this. It was our shortest news write-up, so I thought we'd be in and out pretty quickly. Almost 3 hours. I know.
Damn,
right?
I didn't think that was even
near
near
Dustin in
our
half an hour.
show.
I was like, we got a jet, man.
you guys are doing your Outriders today. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, everybody have a good one. Thanks for watching. As always, thanks for always fucking throwing in the good questions. It's great. Fuck you if you have an issue with Oxenfree. Everybody else, you're good people. That guy is a jack off. I'm just joking. No, it's a blast. That did not feel like that long.
That flew by. That really did. Yeah. So we appreciate all of you writing and making the show entertaining. We hope to hear more from you next week with the likes of Outriders and what other Xbox and PC news pops up. Until then, though, if you got this far, once again, the hashtag defining Duke, whether you tweeted at us, put it in the comments. We just want to know if you got literally this deep to the tail end of the show.
Yeah.
And we hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. We'll wish you well this time. And we'll talk with you all next week in episode 14 of Defining Duke. Peace out.
Peace out.
Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is a product and trademark of Last Stand Media and Collins Last Stand LLC and is recorded from the good old USA. The show was conceived by Matthew Mr. Matty Plays Schroeder and me, Colin Moriarty, and is written and produced by Matthew Schroeder. Matty's co-host is Jeremy ACG Penter. Defining Duke's executive producer is Dustin Furman, and the show is edited by associate producer Ben Smith. All of Last Stand's theme music is by Ramon Narvaez. As you know, all of Last Stand Media's shows, including Defining Duke, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer support level or higher on Patreon, and we're grateful for your kindness and generosity.